All right, I'm going to call to order the City Council meeting for February 1st, 2024 at 5:33 to order.
It's there, Blake. Just move it up. It's over on the left. There you go.
I'm going to move the flag salute until we start the regular, or until after the closed session, so that way everyone can join in on that. So next we'll move into roll call. Both Council Member Keisler and Council Member Lucchese have recused themselves from this item. And with that, I will open it to public comment on this closed session item. Seeing no one, I will close public comment. All right, and with that, we will adjourn to closed session.
Oh, you already got the door closed.
Did you pause the recording?
Yeah, we will. Forget where I can. Good. Juliana got it. Thanks.
All right. It is 6 o'clock, and I am bringing the regular session for the Dunsmuir City Council meeting into order. There was a closed session before this. There was action taken, and the vote was unanimous for all three city councilors who were present.
You will have to clarify what action was taken. What was the motion?
On how staff should proceed.
So direction given.
Direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, shouldn't they also note the two members who were recused?
Yes. And council members Keisler and Lucchese recused themselves from the item. All right, and with that, we will move on to
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
No. You guys did have a flag salute already?
No.
We did not, and that's what I was about to move on to. I moved the flag salute back till after closed session. So with that, if everyone can stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and now that we are in open session, I am also going to have a second roll call.
Councilmember Lucchese. Here. Councilmember Bryan. Here. Councilmember Deutsch.
Here.
Councilmember Keisler. Here. And Mayor Clarno.
Here. All right, and with that, we will move on to item number 6, which is our special presentation for the evening from the Siskiyou County Local Transportation Commission. And we are, with our reorganization of the council chambers, we are working on getting a second TV for the public to be able to view. But if anyone is interested, there will be some slides on the TV in the back. You're more than welcome to rotate the chairs a little bit so you can see easier.
Can I pick this up?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. The weather was wonderful until I hit Mount Shasta this evening. My name is Melissa Cummins. I am the Executive Director for the Local Transportation Commission. So first off, I want to kind of give you who are we and why are we here? You probably haven't seen anybody from the Local Transportation Commission in a few years. And so we're going around doing little presentations, updating you on some projects we're working on, and talking about some other plans that we're actually in the process of developing, which is our main reason for being here. So let me see if I can figure this thing out. So.
Behind you.
Oh, there it goes. Okay, so, and I feel like I should be talking this way, but I have to look that way too. So again, we are the Siskiyou County Local Transportation Commission. Those of you who've worked in government long enough, know that we like our acronyms. So we are referred to as the SCLTC. We are the Regional Transportation Planning Agency for the region. And when I say the region, we're talking about the entire county. That's how the state looks at us. So we are the RTPA, again, our lovely acronyms. So the convention is comprised of elected officials from the Board of Supervisors and then also city councils. And so we have 3 delegates and 1 alternate from the board, and then 3 delegates, 1 alternate from the League of Local Agencies. And you are one of them. Yes, sir. And so our responsibility here in the region is for transportation planning. So that includes airports, transit, streets and roads, active transportation. So anything where it may touch something where people are moving, freight is moving, that's kind of what our role is in the region. We act as a liaison between our local agencies and the state and Caltrans and the California Transportation Commission. So that's one of my real big focuses in the last year has been how can I help our smaller agencies? If there's a question, the state's reaching out and asking, who do we talk to? Who should we include in these meetings, and making sure that all of our partners are at the table when it comes to a potential project that's going to come through the city of Dunsmuir and may impact your residents. And then lastly, we have various programs and plans that we're responsible for. And so some of those programs include, I'm going to try to flip to my notes here, the Regional Surface Transportation Program. That's a block grant program that we receive from the state. It, over the last decade, has provided over $1 million in funding for our local agencies. And actually, some of that money you will see when you walk out here on Dunsmuir Avenue back in, I think it was 2017, 2018, we did a partnership between Stage and the city of Dunsmuir. Sure. Keep going, he said. Okay. So the partnership was between Stage and the city. The city applied for funding. This one?
Here,
One letter line, or take this one. There you go.
There's more things. Thank you. Is it on? Oh, that's, okay. Okay. Can I just stick that right there? Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So, so the partnership that we did with the city of Dunsmuir and Stage actually paid for the sidewalks to be improved out here along Dunsmuir Avenue, and then Stage provided the shelter. So it was a collaborative approach to getting some investments here in Dunsmuir. Some of the other programs that we have are the local transportation funds, which you probably recall seeing. And that is funding for streets and roads in the city, as well as it funds the transit operation on behalf of all of the various agencies here in the county. The other part of the commission is implementation of the Transportation Development Act responsibilities, and that's a lot of transit stuff, so I won't go into a whole lot of that. And then also the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, which is what we're going to talk about next. Pointing that way? That way. Okay, I just have to press hard. Okay, so the Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP as we call it, is a program that is funded through transportation investment funds. This is a 5-year cycle that we go through every 2 years. Every 2 years, the commission, in conjunction with our local agencies, develops the program to submit to the California Transportation Commission. So our part of that program is done on the odd number years, so we just finished that process in 2023. Now the California Transportation Commission and Caltrans is reviewing all of the submissions from the different RTPs all over the state. So we have $6.8 million. That is our target. And when I say target and it says shares on the slide, that means dollars in our world. So our portion this year was $6.8 million. That's a 4-year period of time for different projects. Our proposal this year had 20 local streets and roads projects, including 2 for the city of Dunsmuir, and I'll show you those here in just a moment. Collectively, when I did the call for projects in September, we had over $20 million in requests come in from the 10 local agencies here in the county. So it sounds like a pretty good difference. It's really not that different than previous cycles when we've done this. So I don't want to shock you, but
it demonstrates the need that we have here in the county. Can I just say next slide? Okay, there we go. Okay, so the process, as I mentioned, we send out a notice to all the cities. The program can fund projects from the cities, so there's 9 incorporated cities plus the county road department. So I have 10 agencies that are coming to the table for this program. So when we did that, we had the summary that we came out and we met with each of the cities. So I met with your city manager, your finance director, and your director of public works, I believe is sitting back over there. And we talked about current projects, components of the projects. There's a pretty good push from the state to look at pedestrian, cycling, those sort of improvements. So if you didn't have those in your project, what were the barriers? And 9 times out of 10, those barriers are money. We don't have enough money to put all those different things in these projects and be able to get some work done. So we discussed all that, came back to the technical advisory committee in October, and then eventually that was referred to the local transportation commission for adoption in December. So as I mentioned, the city of Dunsmuir has 2 projects currently in the proposed RTIP. The first one is your Dunsmuir Road Rehab Project, which has actually already received an allocation and should be on its way to getting constructed. The second one is the Hope Lane overlay. And so I'm going to show you, and we'll see if we can get this to work. So this is actually a little video. The commission, the Transportation Commission at the state level requires us to have this information posted. And so there's actually a little map. And there's actually in the slide deck, you can see screenshots of this. So it is going a little bit fast. So this shows you there's an interactive map that residents can access and actually see. So on the side, you can select Dunsmuir. It zooms in, and the little yellow and black lines show you the proposed location of the project. You can click on that, and it brings up a box. And then when you scroll to the bottom, you'll actually be able to see the document that was submitted by the agency with the information on the project. So I want to give you the disclaimer. The projects that are put in the RTIP are at the request of the local agencies. We come to the table collectively to say, this is how much we have. How are we going to make this work to where all agencies are getting some sort of project in this program? So although it says that there's a project there and it says it may get constructed in 27 or 28, I want to make sure that everyone understands that that is based on this council's priorities. If you have your staff come back to the commission and say, we have this road and it really desperately needs to be repaired, we're going to pull this one and put this one in its place, then I'm going to base my actions on what this council has directed your staff to do. And so it's not a guarantee, I guess is my message. I don't want folks to think that it's absolutely going to happen. Things change, priorities change. We are here to facilitate those things getting to the state level, but it's not really our decision on if your project is priority to your agency.
We're not locked into Hope Lane.
No. You're welcome. Okay, so if you click again, it should go. There we go. Okay, and so here's the actual screenshots that'll show. So I won't, if you want to just click through those, but they're there in case anybody wants to go take a look at the map. And it shows you step by step how to get to that particular thing. Okay. Any other questions on that before I move on to the next topic? Okay. Okay, so the next item I wanted to kind of touch on is the Siskiyou County Pavement Management System. This system, what we call Street Saver, is a software program. The commission originally hired a consultant in 2015 to come out and basically do an assessment of every paved segment in the entire county. There are over 2,700 paved segments of roadway in the county as of the original project. So subsequently in 2017 and 2019, the commission allocated funds to once again have them come in. And kind of how we have managed such a large region is we do about a quarter of the paved roads every year. And so it's about 230 miles of roadway that we assess each year. So the consultant came in, they assessed the roads, they updated the information in Street Saver. And so then just in December of this year, the commission awarded another over $200,000 contract for the next 3 years to continue that work. So you may say, why is that important to us? You have access to the data through your public works director. You can use that data. Other agencies have actually used it, and I'm not proposing that you do, but it's available to support tax measures to help with streets and roads funding, or at least letting the council, if you haven't seen that data, know this is the condition of your roads. And so the data is there, the commission pays for the licensing, and we pay for the entire contract for all of the work to put the data into the system. So it's pretty exciting stuff. And the other part of this is the system that we use, the state and the California Transportation Commission is able to access that data and basically use that at the state level to say our California agencies need streets and roads money.
Just to clarify, so if we were to look at that data, would we be able to say that a particular street in our city between block whatever and block whatever is the highest priority because of how bad it is? How does that data become something that we could use to understand where to put our money? Is what I'm asking.
Yeah, so can I go to the next slide and I'll, okay, so don't go yet for me though.
Can I, here, I've got a question here. And
Sure.
if, this is just on the Transportation Commission website?
That is actually through, it's called Street Saver, but it's through the Metropolitan, yeah, so it's a separate site, you have to have access. So I believe we gave your city manager and your public works director access to get in there. But so before I have Blake go to the next one, so your last update was in June of 2017. So you haven't seen any pavement condition updates. So I wanna go to the next slide, but I want a disclaimer, the next slide is that this is based on the last update that was done and assuming that no maintenance information has been put in the system. And my understanding at this point is that has not happened. So go ahead. Okay, so this is actually off your dashboard. So your dashboard, and this thing should have a pointer on it because I just ordered one off the Amazon. So, oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, it doesn't work on it. So in the upper left-hand corner, that kind of is just your summary that says you have 0.1 square miles of paved segments in your city, okay? Then down below where it says lane miles, that's the total number of lane miles. And then it has your center line miles. And then that section down there that he's doing that circle with, that is actually your condition category by percentage. So 10.5% of your roads are very good. 13.7% are just good. And there's different scales for each of these, right? And so then if you look at the one up above in that corner, your current PCI, your average for all of the roads in just the city of Dunsmuir is a 36. A brand new road is a 100, and a pretty much gravel road, you're looking at a 1. So you're kind of about a third of the way up. Yes. So to answer your question, this data, it is available on the dashboard. We can actually export it into a PDF, and it has historical trends that shows you your road conditions are actually decreasing as the years go by. The one thing is when we do the update, they will come around, they will assess the road conditions, and then they're going to update that, but they're also going to include any maintenance that has been done since 2017. And so that your roads conditions may go down, but they may also offset with any improvements. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to mention is go back 1 slide for me. You're scheduled for an update. Actually, one more. Sorry. Dunsmuir is scheduled for your update in 2025. So spring of 2025, your residents are going to see a vehicle driving around town that has lasers all around the outside bumpers. There's going to be the whole back seat is all computer equipment. And so we want them to know that this is being done by the commission. It is evaluating roads. We're not out taking pictures. If somebody is stopped, if the driver is stopped and asked, what are we doing? Why are we out here? We're going to refer them to the gentleman sitting over there in the back corner because he's going to be our contact when they're coming through Dunsmuir. So we are planning on having the consultant bring the vehicle up in advance and having our public works folks come to Wairika if they want and see a demo of the vehicle. So they'll have an opportunity to kind of ask questions, talk to the consultant, that sort of thing. So if they see somebody driving around with a bunch of lasers running off the truck, they're not doing anything they shouldn't be. Okay, now we can go to the last one. So the commission was awarded a grant through let's see if I can get it to go. Oh, there we go. So the commission was awarded a grant through the California Transportation Commission's Active Transportation Program back in 2021. We recently awarded a contract, and I know you all have been doing a lot of work on an active transportation plan for the city of Dunsmuir. So we're not going to duplicate what you've already done. Our team consists of the commission, Alta Planning and Design, who's our consultant, and then the Siskiyou Outdoor Recreation Alliance, who is very familiar with the work here in the county. They've actually been working with the city of Mount Shasta. So they're our public outreach component of this project, okay? The goal, highlighted there in red, is to focus on improving opportunities for pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. And like I said, you guys have been doing a lot of work over the last few months, so I don't want to go too much into that. Let's see if we can.
You were actually at our last meeting on the active transportation.
I was, and I am regularly getting the updates from your consultant. It's not working. Yeah. So this is actually the timeline. So right now we are in literally phase 1. We are collecting data. We've been reaching out to our local agencies. We actually reached out to your consultant to see if we could get some information from them to incorporate into our plan. And so then we're going to go to phase 2, and then later this, actually phase 2 will be late summer, fall, winter, and then next year about this time, we're expecting to have the final plan ready for draft and eventually commission adoption. Go ahead. I'm not even. Okay, so engagement strategies. This is a list of all the stakeholders that we are including and the different ways that we're trying to reach out to the community. So we do have a survey that is available on the website. I actually have a little demo of that. We're doing 8 community events. And so for Dunsmuir, we have looked at participating in Railroad Days in June. If you have another suggestion as far as something that might be better attended, let me know, and I have a meeting with the consultant next week. And then we will also be doing walk audits, and that is where the team will come down, they will walk through Dunsmuir, you know, kind of see what the conditions look like, looking at sidewalks, crosswalks, all of that sort of stuff. And we just set the dates for those, so those will be occurring April 29th through May 3rd. Go ahead.
You brought up a word that I think needs to be brought up, sidewalks. I know that's a constant challenge here in the city, and it's caused a lot of consternation. What are the options available with the various funds to help us above and beyond what we have right now?
Well, so the idea with the plan is to identify those needs, and then the goal would be to work with our local agencies to start going after some additional active transportation program funds to make those improvements happen. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you have suggestions for other key partners that you think we should include, or organizations here in the city of Dunsmuir that you think would be beneficial to have as one of our, you know, stakeholders in this process, let me know, and then we will definitely reach out to them. Okay, I think we're ready for the next slide.
There isn't really engagement from the audience at this point, but.
Well, I just wanted to find out, she said reach out to us.
Yeah, so,
Right now, Will.
Well,
let the council know, and let one of the council members know, and we'll reach out.
yeah.
Okay.
And my information is actually in the agenda packet on the very last slide. So would you actually hold right there for me if you would. So the one thing I wanted to mention, because you have done so much work already, our focus for the additional work that this consultant is doing is to basically look at what you already have in your plan and then make those connections between your plan and how do we get the unincorporated areas on the exterior into those connections. And so that's something that we'll be looking at from the consultant side. We're not going to recreate everything you've already done. So.
If I could take a moment, I just really have to point out that the reason our city has done such a good job and is so far ahead is because of Councilwoman Lucchese. She's the one who led that effort and make that all happen. I want to compliment her for that.
Okay, so can you, so can you get it to go all the way back? Actually, it's okay. So hold on, so it's playing right there. So on the commission's Facebook page, or on the commission's page, which is still part of the county right now, there is a actual project page that is for the Regional Active Transportation Plan. How you can get engaged is all lined out right here. There's a link to the survey. It is available in English and Spanish. And so then if you click on the link, the one thing I just like to show folks, because we've had some challenges with our little map. So this is probably similar to what the city used for trying to, garner input from the public. So you go down through, you click some buttons, you make a selection on, how often do you take transit, how often do you walk? But the one part I wanted to kind of show as we get down here a little bit further, just was having fun playing with the record option in PowerPoint. So on the map, if you click the open map, and this is question 8 in the survey, if you click open map, it actually pulls it up in a separate window on your browser. And then, there it goes. You can zoom in by clicking on the little 3-dot thing there, and it'll show you all the incorporated areas. You can drag that map around, zoom into your area here in Dunsmuir. And then if you want to put a comment somewhere, you're going to go up to the top, and it's going to show you right there. And you click on that button and it gives you a little black cursor. And then you can go down, find where you want to put your comment, click on it. It'll pop up a little box. You put in, you know, this needs sidewalk, or this needs a crosswalk, this needs flashing beacons, needs slower speeds, whatever your comment is. And you can see some of the other ones that have been put in there already. And then you hit post. And that is how you actually add a comment to the map. And you will be able to see all the other comments that everyone else has put in there. And then once you're done with that, you just hit the X to close that window, go back, finish your survey, and then submit at the very bottom, okay? And I know I went through that really fast. All the information is on there now. Okay, and then, let's see. So our next steps, we're working on our existing conditions analysis right now. It is expected that we will have that report finalized by the Technical Advisory Committee meeting on February 28th, hopefully. If you have other information, which obviously for the city, we've already kind of worked with your consultant to get that information. We're also working with Caltrans to get stuff on the state highways and then our other local agencies who have information. So if you have anything you haven't already shared, please make sure you do so we can get everything to them. Help us promote the survey. If you have a Facebook page that you can help send the information out, the commission has our own Facebook page now. We are sharing information on the project, so you can go find those posts and share them. The county PIO has also been sharing our information on this project, so you can also, if you're following the county's Facebook page, you can find that one and share that. The link to the actual project page is right there, and so if anyone has any suggestions, my information is on the right-hand side of that page. And then, as I mentioned, we will be doing open houses and walk audits in April, which will be the last week of April now, and we have a specific date set. And I think that should be it. There's one more slide right there. So there's our current website. The commission is actually in the process of hiring a consultant to develop a separate website outside of the county, since we're not technically part of the county. And so, but like I said, we have Facebook, so if you have questions or anything, you can follow us there for additional information on the projects that we're working on.
So before we go into council member questions and comments, I do have a request, Blake. If when we move from this to public comment, I'm going to give a little bit of time for everyone to turn their chairs around. We could leave this slide up while everyone's doing that, so that way if anyone knows a local group who would like to be involved, if they could take they can take pictures of that and pass it along to them. With that, Councilmember Deister, you had a...
Yeah, I'm just, so now I'm a homeowner, recently homeowner, and now I'm kind of like, I'm in a whole other world of worry. So as far as like me and my people, do you help, hypothetically, there's a gentleman in this room that paid a whole lot of money to fix his sidewalks in front of his property. According to the way it works, I gotta fix the sidewalks. Fortunately, I ain't got no sidewalk on my street. But if I got sidewalks, the way it works is I gotta fix them myself. Does this help me or my people? Or can we get involved? Can we get help with cost? Was my, or is this just for cities and it ain't got nothing to do with the people? That's my question.
That, I think it's going to come back to what is your city, I don't know what the term is, as far as like what is your city policies or ordinances, that sort of thing, as far as ongoing maintenance. If we were to come in with a project and install sidewalks, it is going to be in conjunction with the city and with their support, and so it would have to come back to the council for, do you want to support this project? There would be public engagement. But as far as the ongoing maintenance, I don't believe, once we put it in, 9 times out of 10, if there was a project to put in a sidewalk, then it's going to revert back to whatever your ordinance is and who's responsible for those sidewalks. So if you, as a homeowner,
Safety is an issue, regardless of the fact some people just can't afford to fix it. City will come and grind it down, we're tripping over it. I'm just wondering if there's a way, now that everybody's hearing me, if there's a way we can make it work for everybody. Just saying, Ms. Melissa, I love you and I appreciate your time, but we need, if there's a way to make it work, not just for cities, but if the people can apply to get some help with their sidewalks, especially if it's a safety hazard. I've seen people trip all the time. So I'm putting that out there.
yeah, I'll keep that in mind. And then if we get to that point, once we get the plan is the first part as far as identifying the needs, and then we can go after grant money. But then we're still gonna have to look at ongoing maintenance. And as you can see with streets and roads, the ongoing maintenance is the hardest part because that's where the money shortfall is. So, but I will keep that in mind and then we can chat more about that.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions or comments from councilors?
I'm very curious how the funding from California is allocated to the county, and what the population of Dunsmuir and South Dunsmuir represents in that funding mechanism.
For which portion of the funding?
All of them, but particularly the ones you were focusing on today, the pavement management.
The RTIP is, so number one, you can't allocate funds, you can't allocate funds in the RTIP by population or maintain miles. So, you know, our largest entity in the county can't come and say, well, I have the most maintained miles, I need the, you know, the largest lion's share of the thing. So my philosophy from 2011 to 2019, and then more recently, is we are in this together. And so every agency should have at least one project allocated in that program.
I was more speaking initially to as California determine the amount. Is that based off population of our full RTIP region?
That I would have to double check on and confirm. So I don't want to give you incorrect information, but I will double check on that. So essentially, how are the shares determined for each region? Shares dollars.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I can only come up with a couple of ways in which they might allocate it. And population would make sense. I don't know if number of jurisdictions is a possibility too.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Miles, you know, all
yeah.
The rest of that. I mean, you know,
I will
have a lot of
find out.
Needs of being a city, especially a smaller, close knit city, where we have a lot of needs maybe per mile, but we don't have many miles.
Right.
Whereas other areas, particularly the county, has the opposite problem.
Right.
So yeah, just curious. I appreciate your philosophy that everybody, including smaller jurisdictions, serve a project per year. Realize that's generous. I'd like to understand it better. Particularly as you're aware, Dunsmuir, leadership of Councilman Deutsch, but the community came around identifying some unmet needs when we came to the bus system, et cetera. So it's just been a kind of question, you know, how much can we don't want to burden anyone else, but we're really out to make our jurisdiction the best it can be. And we want to understand how the funding mechanisms work. We're contributing to a number of systems, kind of as a whole, because we're all stronger together. We can't necessarily do it, but all too often heavyweights end up with the projects. And that's natural, but we just want to be aware of how that works and grab projects for when it's our time.
Yeah, well, and the one thing too with so I'm going to flip funding sources on you, is what we call RSTP, Regional Surface Transportation Program. That program historically has been, we get money from the state, we send out a call for projects and say, if you have a shovel-ready project, so we always tell the agencies, have something in queue waiting that can be done. That funding is very flexible compared to other sources of funding. The Regional Surface Transportation Program.
And Commissioner Valenzuela has taken it further and said we should have in the oven, so to speak, a small, medium, and large project, because as they come along, there's a certain amount of money that shows up, and if you've got shovel ready, you can jump on it, right?
Correct. So, so that program is a little bit easier because it's federal funds that are converted to state funds, and then they come to the commission. Once the commission has it, there's some guidelines we have to follow, but it's much easier than going through the STIP program, which requires a lot of documentation and quarterly invoices and all that. The RSTP money, if you have something, you come submit it to the commission awards you a project. Going back 10 years, I think are the bus stop sidewalk project that I mentioned earlier might have been one of the only projects Dunsmuir has come in for in the last 10 years. And so that is another option. And that's something, it's typically smaller because the amounts are not that much. At the TAC meeting in October, we discussed possibly holding the money and doing every 2 years, because then that gives $200,000 instead of $100,000. And so that would be something I would definitely consider for a smaller project, or like I said, every 2 years. So local transportation funds, which is the $2 million that I mentioned, is primarily for transit, but then also is allocated to cities. That is based on population, and that is all 10 agencies in the county. And so we base it on population, and then there's some other calculations because we do have a couple agencies that don't receive transit services. So.
Yeah, as we're discussing increasing transit, public transit in the county, my understanding is one of the last increase of services was extending the bus line down to Estella. Or set a great to pick up PCT hikers.
Correct.
Do you have any metrics on how the ridership is with that?
I don't personally. I'm not over stage at this point, but we can definitely get some information from you. I know it's been incredibly successful.
Cool. As
So,
we've heard too, there's goodly numbers, I think, and so it's a success.
So I will get some information from their staff on what that, the increase in ridership. And I think they track it by that stop. So I'll double check and see what I can find for you though.
We heard in our last council meeting from Trevor Siskiyou that they were a stakeholder helping move along daily transit rides from Dunsmuir to the ski area. I wasn't aware that things had moved along that far, but I'm very happy to hear that. Could you maybe speak to any developments on that front? I know I attended a meeting with you, I want to say the summer, maybe fall.
It was October. It's close to summer.
Yeah, not a lot has happened, but any updates in that regard?
Yeah, actually, we just had a meeting yesterday with the general manager from the ski park and then a local private transportation company that came to the commission. And we discussed a potential opportunity to partner just because Stage's cost per passenger was so high. And that's actually something we presented to the commission in January. And so we have to figure out a way that we can fund it, have the service still meet the metrics that the state sets for us. And so we just met yesterday and we have some ideas. I just reached out to Discover Siskiyou to schedule another meeting with them to look at some opportunities for potentially some grants that would go with reduction in greenhouse gases, getting people out of single occupancy vehicles. So we're gonna follow up with them in a couple weeks.
There's a lot there, that's a great angle. Dunsmuir is incredibly interested in supporting this if it can be effective. Because it's be good both for people who want to work up there and doing our economy, bringing people back into town, spend money, on the slopes. So if you could please keep us aware of when the meetings are, we'd love to be a stakeholder throughout this.
Sure. And I do want to add quickly that one of the ideas that we had as a result of the commission meeting in partnership with this private operator is that, we would make sure our buses get to, and we were actually talking about the shopping center. So we are looking at our established times here in Dunsmuir that could get them to the shopping center. The shuttle would be there, take them to the ski park, and then looking at how do we make that happen morning and afternoon in the interim. And so that's kind of what we've been looking at.
All the more reason why we need a voice in this. If some of our dollars are going towards, trying to establish it. I'm all for making it the most effective, which might potentially exclude Dunsmuir, but I think that it might not. So we'd love to be part of it as well.
Sure.
I could close out by saying that Ms. Cummins was recently made the executive director. She's been involved with the county and with the local transportation commission for many years, and I'm just really impressed. I thought that was an excellent program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Cummins.
All right, and with that, I will move us into item number 7, public comment. Before we officially get started, I do have to ask, if we could just move that chair up in line with one of these more front rows, so that way we're not blocking the door. Yes, please. Yeah, just that way, since that is technically the emergency exit, we should have it moved up a little bit. Thank you so much. All right, so with that, we will move on to public comment. Any member of the public, whether in person or in Zoom, is welcome to make a 3-minute statement to the council. Before making your statement, you may optionally say your name and address. If you do choose to do that, I will not start your time until after you have said your name and address. I will give everyone a 30-second warning when their 3 minutes is almost up. We will run, since we have a fairly large group, both in person and on Zoom. We'll run through everyone in the room first and then move on to Zoom. When it comes time to do Zoom, if you can raise your hand, so that way we know you would like to speak. And with that, anyone who wishes to speak may approach the podium and line up. Oh yeah, sorry about that. Yep. And for items that are on the agenda, which today is the Dunsmuir Recreation Parks District and a code enforcement update, there will be a public comment that during those items that specifically pertains to those items. So if we can talk about that then. So this is mainly for items that are not on the agenda or are on the consent agenda.
May want to also mention that we can't talk back.
Yes, and just if anyone does ask us questions or anything like that, we can't respond to you during your time. It is your time to speak, and we may address that during our council and staff comments, though. Cool. So if anyone would like to speak, please go up to the podium, and then
you didn't finish.
No, go right ahead.
Mayor, my name is Mario. I went to a financial meeting. There's quite an agenda laid out for us. I remember going in a few weeks ago saying, you know, it's really getting time. We need to have a finance meeting. And Blake started the process, got the emails out. There's quite a list here of things on here. And I was disappointed because we didn't get to some things that I thought were pretty important. So I'm going to tell you, really would like council to put some pressure on the finance committee to go over where we are with expenditures and revenues. Our public works, the fuel charges are over budget for the year already. And I know they're gonna tell you, well, they're gonna pull it out of snow removal because there's some monies in there. But that's not the problem, and I don't see it being enough, and that's not the only problem. Also, we're waiting patiently for solid waste. It's not happening. And we're getting to a point where council is gonna have to realize the size of the stomach and the appetite. So the average household in Dunsmuir, 42 grand. The average income, 25 grand. My city has 16 employees, ranges from $140,000 to the bottom first job you can get, brand new, 60 grand. Okay, there's a disparity there. We don't have the money to have as many employees and the golden shop public works that we're headed for. We need to have some serious discussions about that. Finally, Matthew brought up in finance committee the financing of this public works building, which is a pretty expensive building. We're looking somewhere like 2 million, and that's not very good budget for it. So what was brought up was
30 seconds.
What was brought up was several grant things. I spent a few hours using my $50 a month, made some calls to city managers from the past, from this city, and a few other friends that I have. My disappointment was it's been months and months. We were supposedly looking for money, and I found out the city of Dunsmuir hasn't done anything. I'd like to see a staff report with all the potentials.
Thank you, Mario.
Thank you, Mario.
Hello, Allison Lashevsky, River Avenue. We got our $50 a month worth. Thank you, Mario. And thank you for the attendance of everybody here. This is inspiring. It's been lonely here for the few of us that attend regularly. So just as a public announcement, you know, you can get all the agenda online at the City of Dunsmuir website every 2 weeks. Tell your friends, come on out. All opinions are welcome. This is just so great to see these seats filled. So thank you. I'm excited about the laser vehicles here. I see them in San Francisco all the time. That's great that they're gonna come here. I thought I'd take tonight to read some public comment in the past that I made and then make sort of similar public comment. So I'm just gonna read minutes of myself. August 3rd, 2023. Allison, she appreciates the town historian, appreciates the power of collective action, supports the downtown rejuvenation and vacant and distressed ordinance, and wants to know what's up with the piece of plywood that's been on the face of City Hall for the last 2 months. This was August 3rd, 2023. September 7th, 2023, Allison, still me, supports the abandoned and distressed ordinance, wants to ask again, why do we have a piece of plywood on the City Hall door? We haven't even covered it with a coat of paint, I suggested. November 2nd, 2023, from the minutes. Allison reads some of her prior comments on the minutes from meetings prior regarding the plywood on the City Hall door, and again wants to know why there's a piece of plywood on the City Hall door. And today, is it the 2nd or the 1st? 2024, I want to know, why is there a piece of plywood on the City Hall door? And there's tiles falling off too, and we're paying a company called Cosmont, everybody, $200,000 to make a PowerPoint presentation of dilapidated buildings around town to tell us that they need to be improved. Stay posted on that. I think that's March 7th, tell your friends. And meanwhile, we have plywood on the City Hall door. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison.
Hi, my name's Debbie. I live at 4120
Oh,
Edith.
1 second. If we could have excuse me, if we could please respect the person who's trying to speak's time. Right, sorry.
Start over.
Continue. Yeah.
My name's Debbie. I live at 4120 Edith. I've been a resident for about 36 years. I got an abatement notice on my door on the 30th of January saying they're going to take my car. My car has been non-opt, and I talked to Mark, and I said I've been working diligently. We had a buyer in the fall, and we're just trying to get money and stuff together. I had to remove the tires and stuff, and the weather and people being ill. So today, it snowed on the 31st when this was supposed to happen, and Mark said that they were busy and they'd wait. I said, good, because my dog was sick. I still had to swap tires. I said, do it. He said, okay. Well, weather and everything else non-permitting, I didn't get the car moved. And so I left him 3 messages, and I went in there today and called him today because my neighbors called and said, hey, they're taking a car. I said, what? Thought him and I had a good rapport and conducive rapport with the community and people, and he doesn't seem to have it. And it really is sad because the man doesn't have very good, for some reason, he doesn't like me because every time he spoke to me, it's always been nasty. You talk nasty to me, I'm going to talk nasty to you. Well, before my 3 minutes is up, there's 3 things that are very important. I said to him today, after they took my car, I said, I left you messages. I still have my dog to take. I have to put her down. And I said, I will let you know what's going on. I still have to swap the tires, and the guy's coming. And I left him 3 messages, and it was late last night. So today he said, I don't have to listen to your messages. Oh, he goes, oh, I don't answer the phone at 10:30. I said, so you know I called. So he never called me back. So all I was going to do is just ask him to wait and let me get it done. He didn't. So when I went in the building, I said, why did you take my car to Lakehead? In the past, when a car got towed, it either went to Dwight's, Ramshaw's, or Mount Shasta, depending on what entity towed it away. I went to B&T Towing in Lakehead, And I asked Mark, I said, what gives you the right to take my vehicle out of county? He said he could do whatever he wants. So when I went down to B&T Towing, the fellow named Don told me that he and Mark have an agreement that no towing agency in this county wants to deal with towing cars from Dunsmuir. I don't know if that's legal, I don't know if that's true, I don't know what, but I think Mark has taken it upon himself.
30 seconds.
Has taken it upon himself to do things that are not right. So I want to know why he has also, in the abatement, stated my car is to be junked. I can't even go get my belongings. I still have to swap tires on it. I'm losing out all the way around. And he said he can do what he wants. So I think Mr. Mark has to be addressed. He has been very prejudiced about a lot of people. He's done a lot of things to a lot of people in this town on his own.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else in person who would like to make a public comment?
So, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the community, my name is Peter Arth. I live at 5859 Sacramento Avenue in the heart of the historic district. I do so proudly. All of my businesses in the historic district, as most of you know. And item 15 on tonight's agenda is future agenda items. And lingering on the future agenda items is a bullet called Historic Commission Reformation and/or Review. And in the 16 years I've been here, with great disrespect for Ron McLeod and all those who came before him, the city refuses to have this conversation. They refuse to walk around the downtown, look at the deteriorating buildings, and do anything about it. So what I'm asking, Mr. Mayor, is in the next 30 days, you give at least 30 minutes on this topic, and that the 30 minutes is led with a presentation by the city's consultants on downtown renewal as to which approach they favor. To fix the sidewalks in the historic district, to deal with empty and abandoned buildings in the historic district, to support small buildings in the historic district. We know that the status quo of 2 members on the Planning Commission does not work. Rod McLeod said that in 2014 when Mr. Keisler was mayor, and the city voted unanimously in 2014 to create a 5-member oversight group, which Rod McLeod said worked beautifully, and it never happened. And here we are 10 years later with this thing just floating on the future agenda items because you're too busy, because you don't care. For people like me, I am losing confidence in the vision and planning for the future of the historic district. A third option, which I favor and have already researched, is to actually create the Dunsmuir Historic District, a legal entity that could seek loans, that could assist the city in planning.
30 seconds.
And it doesn't matter whether you do the 5-member group or have your consultants tell you what it takes. They're supposed to be expert in forming districts like this. Get the value for the community. We don't let them just tell you all what we already know. We need tools and a roadmap for the city to get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Art.
My name is Jim Cook. I live on Cherry Avenue in Dunsmuir. It is my understanding that the city is in the process of terminating an employee. And my wife and I are a little concerned over that. And we would like to have a copy of the city's, a hard copy of the city's procedure and, procedures for terminating an employee. We'd like to be able to come into City Hall and get that so we can make sure that the city is doing the correct actions. And I think you probably could direct your city manager to give me a time certain that I could come in and pick that up, because I don't want to come into City Hall and just sit around and wait for somebody to look up their policies and procedures. I'm waiting.
Oh,
We can't
we can't
respond,
respond.
Mr. Cook.
We can't interrupt your time. I paused your time here.
It's true.
So, yeah.
I've just terminated my time.
Okay, during our comment, and if there is multiple comments on this matter, I was going to make a brief statement on it as well after we're done with public comment. So I will address that at
I
the end of
asked
public
for a
comment.
copy of policies and procedures in a hard copy form. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Ria Lucia. I live on Shasta Avenue, and I'd like to thank you all for your continued dedication to our city. It means a lot. We have one of the greatest cities I've ever been to in my almost 70 years. Thank you all for your time. I'd like to specifically comment about Brian Wilson. What happened? I mean, why do I see new people working? Where's Brian? I mean, he's born and raised in Dunsmuir. He's lived here for 19 years. He's a family man. What reason was there a termination policy? What did he do to deserve losing his job after 19 years, and then you're hiring other people? That's my grievance. Thank you.
I'm here on behalf of Brian Wilson, and he was born here, Mount Shasta, California, raised in Dunsmuir by my mother, which Brian is my nephew. He's a very hard worker. He's very kind. He treats people with a lot of respect. And I just don't understand how he put 19 years in and never once got written up but lost his job. So I would like you to consider rehiring Brian back, because he is there when you need help. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Frank Barton. I've crossed paths with Brian quite a few times. For example, our sub pump went out, but the city was putting meter boxes for the water lines coming in. So our exit point for the sub pump was tied right next to the meter box. He did the concrete work. He took his time, did it correctly, but he had a great attitude. I work up at the Castle Rock water plant. I run into him occasionally. I run into him in town when he's plowing snow, but he's always got a good attitude. Don't get me wrong. The most destructive nature in the game of my journey has been myself. I've never met him with a bad attitude. So in a nutshell, I wouldn't mind seeing the same copy of what the other gentleman said about the procedures, or the fact he doesn't have any write-ups in his file. That doesn't make it, there's not a whole, I can understand if he's not subservient in power, his control. I understand that whole realm of reasoning, but he never seemed to have a bad attitude. Why would he want to leave this town? He's served this community forever. So why would you want to get rid of the guy?
Booyah.
Thank you. All right, anyone else in the room? And seeing, all right, please approach the podium.
My name is Marie McNeil, and I just have a question about Mark. I'm Debbie Spagnola's sister. I'm wondering if and why she was the only person with all the vehicles being towed with the one that had an abatement on hers. No one else's was. Hers was the only vehicle that had an abatement warrant. I think that's unfair. She's disabled. She's not well. I don't know if it's a grudge he's holding against her, but concerning all the other vehicles that were towed, hers was the only one. That's all I have to say. I think it needs to be addressed.
All right. Anyone else?
My name is Roy Taylor and I live in Dunsmuir. I was bitten by a dog here 3 weeks ago, and my Mark, this guy right here, he says, I can't do nothing until I get an incident report, from the police or the sheriff's office. So the bite happened on Martin Luther King's birthday on a Monday. Schools were closed. So, and City Hall was closed, so I go down to City Hall the next day, and he tells me, well, I can't do nothing until I get an incident report, okay? I said, okay. So I went down Thursday and got an incident report, and then 2 weeks later, and I still hear nothing, and I find out that these dogs that bit me weren't even licensed or had rabies shots. And he didn't even care. And matter of fact, he told me on Wednesday over the phone, he said, Roy, hey, just blow it off and, knuckle it up or whatever, you know what I mean? And that's it, and I'm tired of it. I've been bitten twice by the same dogs. My grandson's been bitten, my next door neighbor been bitten, and the owners of the dogs were bitten 14 or 16 times, and the ambulance had to come and pick her up. And what's he doing? I'd like to know myself. That's it. Would y'all like to have copies of this? These are police reports.
You can drop it off give it to Dustin over there. Anyone else who's present in the room who would like to make a statement today? All right, seeing there's no second statements, unfortunately. All right, seeing no one, I'm going to move to Zoom. If you would like to make a comment on Zoom, please signal that by raising your hand.
You got one raised there, don't you? In green? That's not a green stamp?
No.
That's us? Okay.
There is one now, though, like there's a upper left.
Fuck you, Big Dave!
Wrong person. Resident, if you could please unmute yourself and make the comment.
I'm unmuted. I recently saw a post online essentially threatening city employees. And I just want to say that I think that's very inappropriate. And if our town wants to increase business investment and economic stability, we can't act like we're some backwater where we're promoting vigilantism because we're unhappy about what we've read online that is most likely gossip and unsubstantiated with any facts. And I thought that we all learned this last year when several members of the council were, when things went south with that. And yet it's another city council member who started and instigated this public forum of online harassment. It needs to stop. Thank you.
All right, anyone else on Zoom? Please signify by. And if anyone else on Zoom would like to make a comment, please signify by raising your hand. And seeing no one, I am going to close public comment for this evening. So since several people brought it up, I will just shortly address the Brian Wilson with the Mr. Wilson. Upon his request, he can appeal to the city council. That request has been made. We're currently working to reach a date for all parties involved, where we'll hold a special meeting, where the only item on the agenda for that night will be that particular item. Please keep an eye on the city website where all the meetings are posted. So that way, if you wish to attend and make a comment at that time, you may, but that is the basic procedure from this point forward. In terms of seeing the actual document, I believe that's just the union MOU, but we can address that.
That would, excuse me, that would be a Public Records Act request, so you can go to the city clerk in the back and you can request those records, and then there's a whole timeline and procedure for that.
Yeah.
But full transparency, as of yesterday, Brian Wilson doesn't get paid, and this meeting isn't going to be until what, March?
It's when the earliest that when all parties can.
That's early.
Yep. So one thing, public comment. If you'd like to wait till the end of the meeting, I'll be more than happy to talk with you. So, all right. And with that, we will move on to item number 8, which is council and staff comments. And we will start with Sheriff Ortiz. Or Sheriff Ortiz. Police Chief Ortiz. Yep, Sergeant Ortiz.
The Sheriff's Office doesn't have much to report this evening. I'm going to take some of that blame on the report. I met with the gentleman today. The city just got the report from the Sheriff's Office that was mentioned in public comment. I'm partially to blame as well, and for that I'm sorry. On a positive note, the Sheriff's Office was able to work with Denise Willie from the Resource Center. We were able to donate 5 used bicycles to include some children's bikes to the Resource Center. I think with a little elbow grease, the Resource Center was able to save these things from the trash heap, and hopefully we'll see some smiling kids riding them. We've also been working closely with the Dunsmuir Code Enforcement Officer. I would take this public moment to ask, pretty please, if your vehicle's got expired tabs, figure something out for it, especially this time of year. I understand it's frustrating to come out and find your vehicle gone, but try to also consider the greater good for the community. These city workers are working as hard as they can, as safely as they can, as fast as they can to get our roads plowed for our own safety, and so that we can get to work or we can get to the store. While I do hear and can appreciate the frustration, please help us out. We're trying to keep these streets open. Fires happen in the wintertime. We got to get these fire engines through. We got to get the police cars through, ambulances through. So these cars that have kind of taken up residency on the side of the street, now's the time. If you've got one, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, please get it out of the road now, okay? Thank you.
All right, and next we'll move on to City Manager Reef.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay. So I have quite a list of projects I wanted to update on. So I recently met with SEDC and the city managers meeting. We try to meet bi-monthly. So we did meet this week. I have been asked to be appointed to the board by the other 4 city managers on I-5, and I will be appointed Monday to SEDC.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Box Canyon Dam, we just did, we went through our emergency action plan. So what that is, we have to do that every 5 years. So the dam is in compliance. That basically we go through the whole thing, and, for the call tree to 911 to the fire chief, and we all sat in the room today, spent about 5 hours going through that process, and then we go through a critique process on how we can do better and those kind of things. And so that was a really good learning experience, and all of everything happened associated with that today will go into the new document that will be produced on their 5-year update. And so we completed that today, myself and Chief Padilla and about 25 other agencies or people from all the various agencies from the state to CAL FIRE and et cetera. So we also have higher flows. We did move the wastewater plant. It's now going to the river. And so we are pushing to the river. We did have, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches in the last few days. So the dam is going over the spillway. It's about 1 foot over as of this morning. So.
Has there been any discussion of a possible problem down the line, or does it look like we'll make as many storing without a crisis?
Right now, I think we're in decent shape. You know, there's not a ton of snow in the lower elevations, so that's typically when we lead to the big floods. We had some discussions about that today, as a matter of fact, all of the big floods in 17, 15, and 97, there was a lot of snow on the ground, and then they got rain on top of it. And right now, we're in pretty good shape, and then snow levels are up above 5,000.
So just on the note of letting it go, because there was a Facebook post, the bags for the sand are behind the community building, correct?
No, the bags for the sand are by the old Parks and Recs
That's
building.
the
Yeah,
building I'm in.
yeah, right there in the front. There's a sign on there that says sand. We have it tarped, so it's.
Well, this particular post was someone saw the sand but didn't see the bags.
Oh, I think they're
directly behind it, underneath the porch of the
Oh, that
Parks
could
and
be.
Rec building, correct?
Yes, they're underneath their way down, so they don't blow, the bags just blow around.
Okay.
They're right there, both locations. Both of them are in the same location.
I just wanted to make sure so that
Okay.
if there were any further questions.
Are we gonna get another post on that so we can share that on?
Yeah, we can update that, and maybe we'll go out and look at that and see if we can make it a little more visible and to clarify, because there is no lighting or anything right there, so it's hard to see if it is dark. Kind of want to go through our projects list, because as we're coming into spring, we're getting ready to open some bids and stuff like that, so just wanted to kind of give a quick update on that. Brandstetter repavement project, we have, as Melissa said, that's in, we have awarded the contract. They should start this construction cycle, hopefully early this spring. The tank project, because it's well overdue of being completed, is currently in the testing phase for NSF and making sure that the lining is cured and properly working. Part of the requirements we need to meet the state requirements. We're hoping to bring that kind of online in a kind of soft manner here in the next couple of weeks. And then electrical and the associated appurtenances to that. Hopefully we'll have that within a month. Springs project, so that's currently out to bid. The bid opening is next week on the 8th. And so we should know then for that project, that project also begins this spring with the primary work at the Springs being conducted after June 1st. Butterfly Bridge, that project's kind of been paused a little bit. We, due to all of the ongoing funding increases, or not funding increases, I wish. That's kind of the hang up. We need a funding increase due to cost increases associated with the project. It's been planned for, I don't know, since 2017 or something. And so all construction costs have gone up substantially. So right now we're kind of in a mode of we're waiting so we can complete design. That's projected to come back in 2025 for construction as of now. So, but we have had contact with the state. It's just stuck in their process. Sewer collection project. That project's currently out to bid, and it is bid opening on March 8th. That project we have given the contractors the option to start that project in April of 25. And so we hope to get good bids on that. Wastewater treatment plant project. We're currently in the modifying of the scope for resubmission and approval by the state. I think we submitted that grant application in 2017. So we have come up with additional needs and requirements just based on our permit. So that project's it's still in the design phase component. Public Works Building, we met with the engineer. We had to reduce the scope of the project a little bit due to costs. That's why it hasn't come to council yet. And so we kind of got that down to a narrower dollar figure. Now we can go and do the financing and those kind of components, because previously that was not something that I was willing to bring forward to the council based on where it was at. It was unaffordable. I-5 bridge, water line project, all of that. So we've been, I don't know, probably feels like 10 times a day sometimes. We've been working for the temporary water line during the construction project, and then the permanent water line once the construction project's complete. So beginning in April, the deck of will begin deconstruction, and so, or somewhere right around there. I mean, they're on a pretty tight timeline for the southbound I-5 bridge. And so on that, this happens to be our water line. And so we've been going back and forth to make sure that our water line is protected with that in temporary capacity and also in permanent capacity. So we, Rich did say something. The sheriff's sign we got fixed out front. Yeah, I did. I had to. You left it. Sorry, man. I left it there as it was way down the middle of my list. And recently we removed the radiators here in the council chambers. We're getting ready to do some upgrades here and also over at the city hall. And so it's just kind of, we're getting to that point where we're making those rainy day repair type stuff. And we have kind of done a soft launch. The downtown Wi-Fi, if you haven't noticed, is when you're out and about, it does pop up on your phone now. And so we, that is kind of in the beginning mode of that. So I have logged on and it works. So I guess that's the start. I did attend the SCORE meeting last Friday, and they went over a lot of the details of that. So if you got any questions, I can answer those. And then our hazard mitigation planner from our grant, he begins on February 12th.
Since we have a good crowd in the room, I was going to ask you if you know this. For that, for those of you who don't know, Caltrans is tearing off the road depth for the southbound bridge and replacing it this summer. It's going to be a big project. That's what the crane has been preparing to do. I know you said they have a tight timeline. Do you know roughly how long they expect that project to last? I.e., how, because that is going to be a significant disruption for residents trying to go to Mount Shasta or get home.
So, yeah, so part of that project includes the northbound entrance ramp right there by Dollar General. That ramp will be closed during the duration of the deck being off and reconstruction. And so from what I understand is that will start in April. All the lane closures and all that stuff will switch over in everything on the southbound will switch over to the northbound. And I don't know if that's going to single lane or 2 lanes. We'll keep 2 lanes northbound, but I don't know if we're keeping 2 lanes southbound. That's something we're trying to do. I haven't got the details on that yet, but if I remember right, because I was.
Would you request an update from the project manager as a special presentation, please?
Sure, I can do that.
And I can recall that it was a 3-year project originally. With 1 year to put up the rampart, 1 year to tear the deck out, replace it, 1 year to take down the rampart.
Yeah.
But they're clearly behind schedule by at least a year, so I'm guessing we've got it in 3 years.
I wish that was the case, but they're not. They're behind schedule by a couple months, I would say. But my expectation is that that bridge will be back in service by December.
Actually, Dustin, they were supposed to start 2 years before you arrived.
Oh,
so they're
fair enough.
Significantly behind.
Fair enough. Yeah, just like every other project is delayed. But yes, from a standpoint of where they're at in the current timeline, I believe they're pushing it for supplies and that type of stuff related to the water line. So they can't remove the bridge until they have the temporary water line in place. But my expectation is that we'll be seeing them kind of button it up like they did this last year on the northbound lanes, about the same time frame, that October, November time frame. before it's fully buttoned up and we're back to southbound lane.
Yeah, when you talk with them, I'm very, I guess, surprised at how much Pond Valley Park is still open. I was expecting sadly more of a closure. I'm happy that it's open, but there may be some safety concerns we want to tighten up with regards to their work site.
If you have any, and for this is for the public, if you do see any safety concerns, we've been down there numerous times and addressed things. They kind of get a little bit out of whack and kind of take over all of the space, and we have to go rein them back in. It's just a lot of logistics to try and, keep under management. So we try to keep our thumb on that as much as possible, but we don't go down there every day. So if there is something, please contact us at City Hall, and we'll get down there as soon as we can to address it. We have direct line to the top.
Thank you.
All right, any other further questions for the city manager before we move into?
I have one, and it just occurred to me as I was, a couple weeks ago, I was wondering if there's any update regarding the gentleman who was going to help us use the elementary school children to help build a mural in the underpass. Not high priority, but I'd love maybe to reach out. It's been about a
I think Bruce
Yeah.
can answer that.
No, that's just separate.
Okay.
Yeah, so we did not get the grant on that, but I remember, I saw an email from him a couple days ago. I'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah, it's such a good idea. I think
Yeah.
the community would be interested in trying to, maybe years down the road, but we'd like to stay in contact.
Yeah, I just haven't, I've been looking and I haven't seen any grants pop back up for that cycle again, so I'll reach out to him and see if he's aware of anything and also plan on keeping in touch.
Am I correct? From what I heard tonight, we're still towing cars 31 miles away to Lakehead?
That's correct.
That's correct? That's against the law, but just saying. You can't tow more than 10 miles to incur more hardship on the person of your community that you towed on. Oh, and we're giving money to Shasta County, another county? I got a problem with that. Just saying.
There are variances that unfortunately allow us to do it, but
Could you show them to me? I'd like to see them.
Yeah, let's see them. But moving on, that will.
So who's you gonna pick first?
Huh?
Councilor Conley?
Council, just for future reference, I'm going to be doing the 2 outsides, then the 2 interior. And since I started with you last week, I'm going to start with Councilmember Lucchese this week.
Thank you. I just have a quick update on the railroad cleanup project. So right now we're doing groundwater and surface water management. That's ongoing testing to make sure there's no additional oil being leaked into the Sacramento River. We're going to be washing habitat boulders down at that area, so there are a few large-scale boulders that have been pulled up as part of the excavation that will be kept on site and cleaned to EPA standards and then used for the re-veg and reconstruction of the riverbank for that project. You'll be seeing that happen here the next couple weeks. The winter protection measures are all in place at this point, and so we're doing ongoing monitoring for that with the rising river levels with the impending storms. And then you'll be noticing there's still non-hazardous stockpiling, so there are still trucks dropping off barrier sand, foundation soil, veg soil, and gravel overlay, and that's just to get ready for the summer so that we can mobilize that. So the foundation soil, veg soil specifically, will be going into the reconstruction of the riverbank of the Sacramento as part of the restoration portion of that project. And that's it.
All right. Councilmember
In regards to Mr. Cook's request, I was hoping that maybe council could instruct city manager to have that paperwork ready for Mr. Cook, who was previously county supervisor, to take a look at that. Thank you. The other thing is about a post by a city council member. It was me. I posted that. I didn't threaten anybody. What I said is Brian Wilson got fired. If you got something to say, come to city council meeting and voice your opinion. I never threatened anybody. And it's funny how the person didn't want to give their name that said that. And I would defend any person of this city, whether they work for the city or not. If they're being picked on or something's wrong and I don't think is right, I'm going to say something. That's what you elected me for. Thank you.
Bruce, my turn.
Three things. First of all, at the Rotary Club meeting yesterday morning, Susan Keeler, who is the former superintendent and principal of the elementary school and principal and president of the club, announced that she's working with Allison Leszewski on looking for a grant that would involve an art project that would be located somewhere in the city. This would be through the McConnell Foundation. What they'd like to do is get on the agenda for next meeting so they could come and brief what they're looking at wanting to get from the city a sense of what project. There's a slew of projects to look at and also where it would take place, but they want to get the cities involved with that. So if you would put the two of them on the agenda for next council meeting. Two other dates coming up here. I'm here to announce. The first one is that the second annual volunteer fair. We had the first one last April, and there was a nice number of people that showed up. Obviously, we'd like more, but there was a nice number of people. But the really special thing about it is that there were 17 different organizations there that were looking for volunteers, needing volunteers to help make the community better. And one of the things that was a side effect of the whole thing was all of a sudden they got to look around and talk around to other people who were trying to make the city better too. And so there was really a sense of how can we work together to help do that. So on May 19th, Sunday, May 19th, from 2 to 4 at the community center, we will have the second annual volunteer fair, and word will be going out on that. Secondly, on the April 20th, at the community center from 9:30 to 2:30, there will be an event called Building Dunsmuir's Future. This is an event that is something that was created back in 2018 for the city of Etna by the Siskiyou Economic Development Council, teamed up with the Ford Family Foundation. They spent months putting together an incredible program that involved getting 80% of the citizens of Etna to come on a Saturday morning and get together and look at the history of the city, look at where we are, what are our strengths, get to know each other. It's an exercise called placemaking. It's like a visioning exercise. So that's what we'll be doing that. There'll be a catered lunch so people can come and participate, get to meet their neighbors and do all of that. And we had our first meeting last Monday, and Mr. Clarno, Mayor Clarno and I are the two council members on that. We're pushing it. We've got a lot of other people. I've already reached out to Ron McLeod as the city historian, and he's going to be helping on the different aspects of sharing our history. So I'm really excited about it. April 20th from 9:30 to 2:30, Building Dunsmuir's Future, and then May 19th, second annual volunteer fair. Thank you.
That will be at the community center.
Yeah. Thank you, Councilman Deutsch, for organizing that. Looking forward to it again this year. I just wanted to address the continued comment about plywood on City Hall. I think the prior comment, when that happened, it was explained to me that there wasn't a comprehensive plan. We're waiting to complete that, which makes a lot of sense. Don't spend money on temporary repair if you've got something more permanent in mind. But I do have to agree wholeheartedly with the sentiment that how we present ourselves matters. It says something about who we are as an organization. So if we could potentially, if it's not going to be in the immediate future, like say another month, maybe we could do something to make it look better in the meantime. I think that'd be appropriate. I also wanted to speak on the Cosmont consultants we've hired through a federal grant. We worked very hard to receive $250,000 to do economic development in the city of Dunsmuir. We have approximately 3 years. We're halfway through year one to do downtown revitalization and retail recruitment. The PowerPoint that we could get could be somewhat lame if we don't get involved and really put Dunsmuir's own spirit and character and buy-in from our community into our revitalization plan. For years we've all wanted some degree of revitalization. This is our best chance to have a sustained, codified plan that holds all of us as a community accountable. So I do hear the criticism that we might end up with a PowerPoint for that amount of money, but I would say we could end up with a lot more. We could end up with a plan that is our plan. Our next meeting, I believe, is March 7th. Please stay tuned. This is really a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to actually put some energy and resources that aren't our own directly. We had to work hard from the federal government to get this. to deal with that. I'd also like to encourage the gentleman who spoke about a business improvement district or downtown revitalization, historic grant. It's through that process, I think, that we're really going to move the needle in that front. I look forward to the councilor supporting efforts to enact the plan that we make, but we're in the planning stage and we'll work the plan subsequently. So please, in the next 6 months, be on the lookout for meetings regarding economic development with Cosmont, our consultants. Thank you.
All right, and then I don't have much this evening. I did just want to get one clarification from you, Mr. Reef, regarding Brian, and that is you will have representation during that special meeting. Is that the union, right?
You will definitely have union representation, but
Okay.
I have not spoken to the union yet.
Okay, awesome. All right, with that, I just want to thank all the city employees for all their hard work this last couple weeks. We haven't had much snow, but we've had a lot of rain and a couple flood drains and everything like that. I'd like to just thank everyone for getting out there and getting at it. And with that, we will move on to item 9, committee reports. But before we do that, since we've been here for an hour and a half, I am going to put us into a 5-minute recess. We will re-adjourn at 7:35.
Council members get first in line to the back.
All right, it is 7:36, and I will bring this meeting back into order, and we'll move on to item number 9, committee reports. I know the finance committee met. Were there any other committees that met during this?
Yeah, I had Siskiyou JPA.
Okay.
Or solid waste JPA.
All right, we'll start with the finance committee and then move on to that one.
Started the year off from foot. We did have, as previously mentioned, an extensive agenda that unfortunately in 2 hours we exhausted, and some of the items were not in control. So we did a cursory covering of what we'll be doing over the next several months. I'd just like to remind everyone that the city of Dunsmuir, quite some time ago, established a Brown Act Finance Committee for a number of reasons. But one of the greatest reasons is if you have any interest in the city of Dunsmuir's finances, if you want to help, if you want to hold the city accountable, you have a public notice meeting that you can show up to. It has regular meeting times. It's just shifted. It used to meet the Monday before council meetings. Now it meets the Monday after council meetings, so Monday after the first and third Thursday typically. We will be meeting the first and third Thursday Monday in February. Second and fourth, sorry. 5th, coming up here. If anyone's at all interested in finances, this is a great time to start following that committee because we're going to be doing a half review on our budgets going. We've got a lot of really important big picture conversations going on right now as far as the health and resiliency financially of our city. And we're prepping for a renewed 2-year budget that has to be in place into council, hopefully by early June. The new year, our fiscal year in the city starts on July 1st, and we have a 2-year budget framework to work out with. In prior times, the city governor did not have the luxury of a meeting you could show up to as a member of the public and enjoy and know what was going on. You had to ask around, you had to know somebody who supposedly knew something. So it's not often attended. Sometimes it has a number of people that come in, but do know that it's a commitment the city has made structurally. The citizens really have a voice in the real nuts and bolts of how the city's run, where our values are, where our resources are placed. The main item we actually ended up discussing was the one placed on the Finance Committee's agenda by council at the very last meeting. Siskiyou County Economic Development showed up at this council prior meeting and asked for a renewed MOU to provide economic development services. They, for going on a decade now, have received $6,000 a year to help support and provide economic development in the city of Dunsmuir in various capacities. The council had some concerns over the increase relative to our current budgetary situation, and there was a lack of clarity regarding the number of the financial representations of that organization, so it was put to them. Their executive director was kind enough to attend and work with us for over an hour. We actually got a lot deeper into the structure and financing of that organization. It is a nonprofit that has a core mission to do this work, but they do need stakeholders, and they have successfully pulled money together to do economic development. The committee really talked about what would matter most to Dunsmuir as far as the type of services that might really reflect back to us and be of importance to our city, particularly as it's countywide, so sometimes we can get lost. We want to be the squeaky wheel. If there's funding available, resources available, we're happy to support it, but we really demand, measurable success, especially if it's increasing. So the committee did decide that the work of the Cincinnati Economic Development Council warranted the increase. However, we had some doubts as to whether it's the time to increase anything in our current set budgets. And the idea was we're going to revisit it in all fairness when every other budgetary concern comes up going into this next year. We're at 6,000 this year. So the recommendation, the Finance Committee was to table it until we take it up with the rest of the budget and see, depending on actuals, if any increase will be sustained in the 2 years that are already budgeted. That's kind of where we're at with that. If council has any further direction, doesn't want to wait, certainly now would be the time to bring it up. Finance Committee did vote unanimously towards that, with the exception of one member, our treasurer Rubino, did feel that due to his Facebook activity, I believe he wanted to recuse himself from that topic. The other,
can I specify one thing on that, just to clear, because I know it's going to come up as a question. Their budgetary cycle is on the same time as ours, so their, this funding that we're voting on wouldn't be going until down to July. So by us looking at it with our budget, it also lines up with their budget.
Okay, cool.
As well.
So we're not screwing ourselves by not jumping in with both feet right now.
Exactly. I just wanted to put that clarification out there just because I knew it was a question. Yeah.
The extensive rest of the agenda, which will actually have, each item will be a meeting unto itself going forward here in the next 2 months, would be my intention as chair. I guess essentially in order of urgency, Public Works building financing. So those aren't aware, we had a Public Works building on UP land down there in the yard for, I don't know, 60, 70 years. We had to move it with very little notice or remove ourselves from it. We got none or no compensation from Union Pacific for turning in that lease. And we are left with building the new future Public Works building. It's been ongoing for 1.5 years. And when we get the financing arranged, the city manager spoke, or the amount set, we have essentially 2 options for financing. One would be to go through private lending institution or USDA. There's advantages and disadvantages to both. Finance Committee wants to dive into it when we know the number a little bit more certainly, so we can understand the economic impact of each route, including time till we build. So that was discussed and probably needs to come back quite soon, so look out for the agenda. Council was aware that 2 potential tax strategies were presented. They were referred to the Finance Committee, including any other alternative ones. That was very briefly discussed and was taken up in the context of a budget review and where we're going. Community promotions. While the community promotions, top dollar figure is already set for the next year in our 2-year budget as of this moment, the program, council referred to Finance Committee to review and recommend some alterations and cleaning up the program, so expectations are set and it works better for everyone. No one enjoyed the way it functioned last year, given some of the financial constraints, lack of communication. We want to get in front of that. I would, for all those interested, look to the Finance Committee over the next several months for discussion of how the program will run, the recommendations to the council. The actual allocation will probably take place much later. My guess is when we take up the budget itself, closer to maybe the early May timeframe from the April timeframe.
So do we have a date when the organizations will need to have their request in, or are we going to wait till announcing it after you've gone through all these things?
I would say at this point it's preliminary to have that date. I think that we're going to fast track this to council if we can. I mean, it's council's decision. Finance Committee is just doing, we're just brainstorming in finance, and hearing from the public and workshopping it. So my hope would be to have a community promotions program approved by the council by the end of April, and then allocations can happen before we get deep into the budget. But finance committee needs to dive into that work. We could do a preliminary discussion of it, but didn't have enough time. So, as you can see, finance committee is going to be very busy. Again, it's the Mondays after council meetings, so I hope to see you all there. Thank you. It's at 3 p.m.
In this room.
In this room.
All right, and
Yep, so I attended the Siskiyou Solid Waste JPA meeting, I don't know, it must have been last week, I think. We've been really struggling to get a quorum, and so one of the discussion topics that we brought forward was trying to get some leniency on who can attend. And so right now it's pretty much elected officials, but the timing of the meeting, so we're looking at changing timing of the meeting to try and get more attendance. But, you know, out of 10 members, we are looking to add 2 additional members, the Karuk tribe, and then, I can't remember the other one, but we're adding, and one other one. And so we'll end up with 12 members. And so our quorum is technically 4 as per the JPA, but we struggle to meet 4 a lot of times. And so now we're looking at, you know, possibly adjusting, you know, as a council appointee rather than a council member, because the people that are able to show up were all staff. Most of them were alternates, right? And so we want to try and get some more attendance there, especially moving into 1383 compliance with recycling and all of that stuff. Unfortunately, and you know, I guess fortunate for him, the deputy director, Steve Serdal, is retiring, and so there will be a transition from general services component. So we are kind of going through some of those actions too. So there's some new stuff coming up with that. So with some staffing stuff.
all right, and with that, we will move on to item number 10, approval of the minutes of January 18th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of January 18th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Approved. With that, we'll move on to item number 11, the consent agenda, which consists of one item, the check register for 113 through 126.
I make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, there are no public hearings tonight. So with that, we will move on to item number 13, old business. With one item, and that is Dunsmuir Recreation and Parks District Community Working Funding Trust. Well,
all right, Mayor and Council. So I've been in discussion with Mike Rodriguez, who is patiently waiting on Zoom, and he has requested to bring this back before the council. And as far as the funding request, but also to establish the joint meeting timeframe, and so I'm bringing that forward to the council to discuss and address. But I'd like Mike, if you would like to speak, you're more than welcome from your side and your guys' perspective on from the Park and Rec District component.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Dustin. Yeah, again, thanks for letting us come before you this evening. I don't know if I have 1 or 2 board members still there, but last promotions cycle, we submitted a request for $26,000, and it was our understanding that we were going to get approved, and then we got word that it's going to go a different way, and that was back in July, and we actually need the funding now to balance our budget, because we put that money in our budget, and we like to get that money towards the pool so we can balance our budget for this current year. So I think Will is still there, or I'm not sure who is still there.
They're all here.
Your board is here.
Oh, good. Well, I welcome them to speak on our behalf, but I'm sorry I can't be there in person. I've got a health issue going on with my sciatic, flare up, so I'm not be able to stand or walk too much. But anyway, we just want to request continued support for our pool, and we're asking that our funding be processed so we can put it toward our budget for this current year.
You got anything, Will, or any of the board members?
You guys want to come to the podium and?
As a Parks and Rec board
Katie
member?
forced me. Okay, my name is Will Newman. I live in Dunsmuir. In terms of the funding, we had a nice meeting with Dennis and Dustin a couple of days ago, or yesterday actually, and Michael. And it was there's a lot of details that I'm not going to go into because I'm not authorized to, but I just wanted to explain that the funding that we are requesting to a large extent is just a cycle back to the city. We are required to pay for water, and that amounts to oftentimes pretty close to $20,000. So the funding that we're requesting, to a large extent, just comes back to the city. The other thing is the pool has run at a deficit for many years, and it is a gift from the rec district to the community because it is something we feel very strongly about. And in the discussions with Dustin and Michael and Dennis, it was nice to see that you all understood a lot of the constraints we're under. And one of the major constraints is labor. We have, up until his death, we had one person who worked for the district who worked 15 to 20 hours a week from April, it's either March or April to October, and who worked at just about minimum wage. So we are under a lot of constraints in terms of what we could do. And then toward the latter part of his health issues, he was restricted in what he could do. And we had the person who's now our pool man, or for lack of a better word, our pool man, come in and take up some of that slack. But money and labor have been a real issue with us. So I want to thank you all. And I thank you for the cooperation. It was really nice meeting with you yesterday. So,
thank you, Will.
Right, anything else, Dustin?
No, I think we'll just take that and then we'll discuss the joint meeting component after.
Okay, are there any council member questions before we move into public comment?
I just want to clarify, just so it's clear. It's my understanding that what we're dealing with here is really the part of the community development program, in the sense that they used to come to us under that. And now we're saying we're going to develop more of a side relationship and not ask them to go through that and be part of the funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, not community promotions.
Promotion, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah, you are correct. And,
Okay,
and so this was their application for so this current fiscal year. So we're already to February. And so Mike had asked me, they're running tight on funds. So he had asked me to bring it forward. I thought it was prudent to let's discuss it, move on past this, and then we'll meet at a joint meeting to discuss the future, what that looks like.
Yeah, and I'll hold off on my actual comments until after.
So we did have at that meeting, we did have comment on the structure. Are we dealing with that, the joint meeting? Or?
I think we'll deal with it at the joint meeting, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No, I just really enjoyed the 2 of 4 joint meetings we already had. I thought that was really good. I know we all know we're due for another one, so I look forward to really getting into the details.
Okay. And so with that, I will open this item up for public comment. Same rules as general public comment. Everyone gets 3 minutes. Please limit your public comment to discussion on this particular item. And with that, I will open it up if anyone would like to come to the podium.
evening. I'm Fred Taylor. I'm a resident of Dunsmuir for 77 years. And I'm here to ask the council to consider releasing our baby liability because of the vehicle abatement code. What I have.
No, 1 second here, Fred. This is for Parks and Rec comments, but.
Oh, I thought you said we were on them.
No, but the next item is a code review, and this public comment might be more relevant to the next item.
Okay, as far as Parks and Rec goes, I have a question about the swimming pool. Seems to me that we passed a sales tax initiative that included funding for the swimming pool several, maybe 4 years ago. And I would question why we don't have those funds to apply to the swimming pool.
Allison Lashevsky, River Avenue. Thank you, Bruce, for mentioning the grant writing. Let's do it. Any 501c3 or public entity. I'm game. Let's write some grants. Let's do first week in March. Matthew, thank you for encouraging the public engagement. As for Rec and Park, money is the answer to most problems, but in this case, I find it to be a Band-Aid solution. Okay? Over the years, money has been used for Rec and Park to put out fires, not to plant seeds. I'm sure you've all received Mike Giacomelli's email. Mike Giacomelli is responsible for the softball tournament. It's no coincidence that we both have shared similar volunteer experience, questions, and concerns. Money, Band-Aids. And when problems get bigger, we need bigger measures than Band-Aids. Duct tape. Maybe the city hall door can also use some. The pool certainly can, right? And after years and years of Band-Aids and duct tape, this is now the baseline. Complacency. You've all heard from the community, joint meetings that we've already had, and certainly from myself. I facilitated a special meeting for the Rec and Park District on August of 2021, I believe, where I led the horse to water. It was strategic planning. We talked about grants, partnerships, lifeguards, the whole situation. With money needs to come accountability, strategy, planning. This is our town's assets, the pool, the baseball field. Where is our return on investment? When you peel the layers of this duct tape and these Band-Aids off of everything around here, things look really vulnerable. There's systemic problems going on here. It might be helpful in having these discussions with Rec and Park and the city to perhaps separate the person from the role here and how we work together. Ms. Perkins, can you please notate in the minutes that I've used Band-Aids and duct tape as symbolic theatrical props? Thank you.
Thank you. And love the symbolic props.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I haven't been very happy with the way council's handled this from get-go. It hasn't been handled very expeditiously. I've heard nothing but complaints in the community about why is it taking so long to get these meetings with council, on and on. But I will say this, before we walk into the finance committee, I hope someone sits down and drafts what community promotions is supposed to be. I see that we did take the downtown Wi-Fi out of community promotions, but still in community promotions. That's something council generated. It's not something that was from the community. The city is looking at increasing revenues so that it can afford the overburden we're carrying. If it's gonna do that, you gotta bring the community to the table. They're the ones gonna pay. And we need to take care of our community, of our softball, of our parks and our libraries. The citizens have to get their share out of what's going. I know having nice new equipment for the workers and everything is a good thing, but we have to balance that. We have to balance that with a commitment to keeping this still a community where people can do softball, have a beautiful park. And right now, a lot of that stuff's wearing really thin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, I'd simply agree with the prior two public witnesses and hoping, no one mentions the city park and nobody mentions our botanical gardens, which I think are a huge asset to the city of Dunsmuir. And some of us elders have spent time down there. And Ernie Wasson, I understand, is shifting roles. And he's no longer going to be the horticulturist down there. But if you take a tour with Ernie, he will point out white PVC pipes above the ground. He'll point out valve boxes that are broken. I don't know what the state of the fire in the bathrooms is, but there's 100 excuses why the pool will take precedence over the botanical garden, and that's not good governance. So whatever the sum, I think the community would support maintaining the gardens as much as they would the pool. So how do we do that? And how do we stop deteriorating infrastructure wherever it is in the shared domain of the city and the Parks and Rec District and well-meaning citizens that are trying to hold things together? So I'm glad you're having these discussions. I think there should be some performance metrics where you don't allow broken plumbing, you don't allow burned out bathrooms. It has to be somebody's responsibility. Thank you.
All right, and I do see a comment on Zoom. All right, you should be able to unmute yourself and I can't see the name. Michael, you can you should be able to unmute yourself and make your comment now. Oh, you're still muted.
Michael on Zoom, you can unmute yourself.
I think you got it. Speak, Michael. Oh, now he's connected.
Mike Rodriguez?
No, it's
You may want to tell him that if he can't get it to work, he can
Yeah, just test it.
That'll work. Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Mute one of his things.
Mute your computer though, so we it's causing feedback right now.
Okay, better?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. This is kind of crazy. We're doing this, but this is exciting. Greetings from Reading. My name is Mike Giacomelli. I was raised in Dunsmuir and I have a very long family history associated with the small town that I still call home. Myself, along with Jake McKeel, took over the Railroad Days Men's Slow Pitch Tournament in 2022. Our goal was to get the tournament to what it once was. Our tournament has been very successful. That would have not been possible without the blessing of the Parks and Rec Board and Mike Rodriguez. Over the past 24 months, we have called upon several local volunteers, businesses to assist with rebuilding the ballpark. It is important to mention we are not looking for a pat on the head or any thank yous. We are looking for accountability and a routine maintenance plan for the ballpark and its surroundings. We believe this falls solely in the lap of Mike Rodriguez, District Administrator, Dunsmuir Parks and Rec. I sent this email back in September, and I received a response from Mike. Specifically, he stated he's having staffing issues, health concerns, which I understand, and I truly sympathize the noted health concerns, and of course, I do not take those lightly. However, this is simply not an excuse. You and I are in clear agreement, Mike, that regular ballpark maintenance has not been done. The repairs we have done were needed for years. The ballpark is an iconic landmark of Dunsmuir and should be treated as such. This clearly has not been the case for many years. Our concerns are the concerns echoed by many residents of Dunsmuir, many of whom have invested countless volunteer hours to fix the problems that have occurred on Mike's watch. The buck truly stops with you, Mike. We will continue to work to better the ballpark and our tournament as we are committed to doing so. But when things break or get vandalized, they need to be fixed. The answer is not to just ignore it. If it is a staffing issue or failure by staff to maintain, what has been done to remedy this problem? What solutions are in place? There needs to be clear direction for staff. If the direction has not been given, it is a leadership issue. If the direction has been given and not been followed by the staff, then it is also a leadership issue. Again, this falls on your shoulders, Mike. The bathrooms underneath the grandstands are another concern. How were they ever allowed to get into the current condition that they are in? The current condition of the bathrooms have taken years. We are told the bathrooms are beyond repair. That is not true. They can be fixed. We are told that if they're fixed, they have to comply with the ADA Act. It is my understanding if we build new bathrooms, they must be ADA compliant.
30 seconds.
But if they are repaired, they do not. Mike has told us the bathrooms are connected to a septic tank and that it is a moot point. I have asked several people about the septic tank and nobody can confirm that this is the case. I am told they are connected to the city sewer. Let's say the bathrooms can't be fixed as Mike states. Why are they not clean? There is garbage and debris everywhere. I know my time is up and thank you guys for not wishing well.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
We turned off. And since he turned off his computer audio, I don't think he can hear us.
Yeah.
Because of the thing. So.
Thank you, Mike. You're all saying.
Thank you, Mike. And all right, is there any other public comment? Well, seeing none, I will close public comment for this evening on this item and move into council discussion.
I'd like to take a shot at it. For the question about how this relates to the sales tax, the community promotion fund is off of that fund. It's off of that TOT tax that was passed.
Excuse me, Councilman. Yeah. I hate to interrupt you, but it has some connection as far as when it was formed.
Yeah.
But community promotion is strictly general fund.
Yeah, I understand that, right.
As are the TUTs.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea was, though, that when the TUT tax was passed, it was passed with the initial support of the swimming pool and the library. So I'm just answering to those people that we have kept a commitment to taking funds each year and putting it towards the swimming pool. And the only difference that has taken place is that looking at two different groups that used to be on that, we decided to move away from having them be part of the pool and applying through that process when we have a special relationship with actually three organizations, the library and the, just drawing a blank. Oh, the library, the resource center, and the park and recs. So those are kind of what we're addressing right now, is we're taking a deeper look than we would as part of the community promotions program, and that's what this is. It's a deeper look and a deeper look at the funding.
I'm ready to make a motion. They've waited long enough.
I have some conversation as well, but I don't want to go through it.
I'd like the motion to approve 2023-24 grant funding and to establish a future joint meeting as directed by staff.
Two staff.
To staff.
The only issue with the motion is since we haven't discussed funding amount, and there isn't one specified here.
Yeah, it is right there, turn the page, 26. 26, yeah, turn the page.
26,000.
So you're being specific, so you're specific that you're motioning for the amount.
Okay, let me rephrase this.
I got you.
I make a motion to approve the amount requested by the city, by the Park and Recreation Board for the 2023 grant funding and to establish a future joint meeting as directed to staff.
Second.
All right, the motion has been moved and seconded.
Councilman Kessler, would you consider an amendment?
I'm listening.
I'm in full support of funding 26,000. In fact, when we moved it out of the community promotions pool, we did budget that amount in our arrangements. The intention has always been to keep the pool open and fund it. I wholeheartedly agree with the accountability. And that's not just accountability of Parks and Rec. They're obviously a very important stakeholder here, but it's accountability to the community and to the city council as well. And I really enjoyed those joint meetings. I would like just some accountability with the funding. I'm happy to approve it now, maybe even fund it now, but maybe as part of the motion, I'd like to see more accountability on what we're intending to do. And it's on us, we haven't met. It's on Parks and Rec that we haven't met more than the 2 times. The 2 times were incredibly productive. So there's so many structural questions, right? Like, who's going to fix the bathroom? Who's going to fix the sprinkler system? How are we going to regulate maintenance of the ball field? What are we going to do labor-wise now that Parks and Rec has a labor issue? So it's very real problems, and I'm all for funding. So that's why I support your motion. But I think if we're going to put funding there, we really need to match it with a plan.
Well, I make a suggestion that if you want to add something, you could add at the end of that where it says to direct staff, let's see. For the meeting, and you could simply say something like with the purpose of developing the process of accountability, protocols or whatever.
How about we just say we will fund half of it now,
No.
2 or 2 meetings, do the rest.
No.
I want some urgency from our part.
No, I won't give them half now, they're trying to budget too, and we've done this for a while. They need the money, my motion is to give them the money, but to develop some kind of accountability strategy or planning at this meeting as directed to staff.
I think just on this point, I think the bigger piece is that this has been put out into ether, and so I think it's something that I think Mike needs to take note of, and the Parks Board, that there is a frustration with the overall piece of this, and we do want to come to a solution with everybody. But I think this just kind of notes that we can't keep being the filler for the rest of the budget. I think we need to have a really strong conversation. It's something I've struggled with the last couple of years I've been on this council working with Mike, is to determine other funding mechanisms that are more consistent than what we have available. We're going into 2 deficit operating years. We're going to have to cut funding somewhere. So, I do want to see the board take this seriously as much as we do that. There needs to be a consistent funding mechanism. There needs to be consistency in the services that we provide moving forward on that. I'm hesitant to vote yes for the allocation because I have had that opinion that I don't feel like it's moving in a positive direction. And I feel like we're just pumping water out of the continue as it sinks. And I will vote yes today to make the budget shortfall, but I'm not inclined to vote yes today.
Okay.
Good question.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Since this is a money item, we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lucchese.
Aye.
Councilmember Bryan.
Aye.
Councilmember Deutsch.
Aye.
Councilmember Keisler.
Aye.
Mayor Clarno.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. And then, let's knock down the second part of the.
Yeah, so we did meet yesterday and to discuss on trying to come up with a date. So if the council is open to it, it seems like the Park and Recs can make it work. If we would meet 1 hour before our next meeting on the 15th at 5 p.m.
What I'd like to see before the meeting is some sort of something we can all look at and share that gives us a sense of some of the options we have and how to tighten things up. You know, in other words, we have this relationship that happens with cities and governments all around. How do they formalize, and what are the protocols so that we can take all the concerns we have and find a solution? I'd like to know if there is something out there.
So I just want to specify something because I was in the meeting that we had with Mike Rodriguez and 2 members of the Parks and Rec Board. And the main point of this next meeting is to discuss the one reason we want to get this meeting fairly soon is because of the unfortunate passing of Dale, and whether or not Parks and Rec needs to know very soon on whether they need to apply that position and hire someone new, or whether the city will be taking over an extended role. So that is why there is a time crunch.
So I think you're on the 8th.
I am gone from the 6th through the 10th.
Okay.
Do the 22nd.
That's pushing it out 3 weeks.
Yeah, the primary concern is getting just the maintenance component because we're going into spring really quick.
We're talking in February, so
Yes.
I'm fine at the 20th.
Combined park and finance meeting.
Does the board have?
That's on the 20th, right?
Shut up. Monday the 5th.
Oh, that's Monday.
So really quick, so Wednesday the 21st or Thursday the 22nd sounds like it's open. I hate to wait that long, but we have people in and out.
21st or 22nd?
Yeah.
I think we could pull most are boards here. We could pull the board.
Yeah, that would work for us. I mean, for my personally, the 21st would work.
Could we do the 22nd? I feel like would be a better day if we could do the 22nd. Will the 22nd work for you?
At 5?
If that's where we get the majority of the players, how about you, Will?
I'm looking at my calendar right now. What day is the 22nd?
Thursday.
Thursday.
February is a hard month because it staggered everything.
We have 5 Thursdays in February, which is like a rarity.
Yeah.
Now we have a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but the coolest thing is this leap year. We got one of those 29. We're gonna do something.
Yeah.
And have an anniversary.
22nd looks good for me.
Okay, so 22nd at 5 o'clock works for all of you? We're good. Okay.
Good.
All right, so February 22nd, 5 o'clock. Do you want to meet here or do you want to meet at the Parks building?
We want to do 5 or 6.
5.
Okay.
I kind of like the park and recs. It's kind of like, you know,
Let's
on
do
your
that.
turf, and it was more comfortable, and I mean, that's just my opinion.
It's up to you.
All right.
Okay, we'll meet at the Parks building.
Community center.
Sorry.
Okay. 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Okay,
Don't be late, Michael.
I'll be there. Dustin, will you prep the agenda or we'll do it together?
I'll contact you.
Yeah, Mike, yeah, the 2 of you can work that out.
I hope you feel better.
We have a pretty good view of the exercises we did before.
Appreciate that.
So with that, unless there's anything else on this item, Justin, we'll move on to
I think that's it.
new business. All right. With that, we will move on to item number 14, new business. There's one item, which is a code enforcement update.
All right. All right. Mayor and council, so we have, council, previously, you guys had requested kind of an update on where we're at. We're going to need some public comment on vacant and distressed building, and so felt it was appropriate to bring it forward for kind of a more formal update with a staff report. And so, there's, this is probably, it's the hardest topic of things that the city ever has to address, And so first I want to commend the council for taking the initiative to fully fund a position to help address our code issues. And it's been a long road. It hasn't been an easy road. And now with the addition of Silver and Wright, we're able to take that kind of to the next level as our code enforcement legal support. And so I want to commend Mark on taking this on. It's not an easy role. There's no part about it that's, easy telling somebody they can't do something, right? But we have to follow the legal parameters written in the code, state vehicle code, all of the codes that we're subjected to. And so I commend Mark for doing that and taking that on. So Mark has a pretty decent update and discussion of the activities he's been conducting. So.
Question?
Sure.
I think the frustration that most of us are dealing with when we talk about the ones at the top of the problem of change is just the simple ability to go in and do an inspection. Are we still dealing with not being able to inspect for safety?
I'll address
He'll address that, but yes, that is a big challenge, and we're working through that process. And so I'll have Mark kind of, when he has this discussion, but then kind of discuss how that process works, because it's not short in any capacity, right? Some of those takes a long time to get to that point,
Even after a hypothetical fire in a building?
Yeah.
Say that for council.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
that's okay. So I know that vacant and distressed is the main concern, and I'll reiterate what City Manager Reef said, that basically it was very hard to move forward until we had certain pieces of the puzzle in place, one being Council of Silver and Wright, the other being administrative hearing officer, but that doesn't come into play so much with vacant and distressed, but in other areas of code enforcement it does. And third of all, the implementation of the new software we have to manage code enforcement, business license management, short-term rentals, and all that. And with those three pieces of the puzzle in place, it's going to be a lot easier to, I believe, succeed with larger projects, which are vacant and distressed buildings. So previously, it was really spotty, and it's not much improved actually, and in getting buildings registered. So currently for the 23, 24, I identified 19 properties that I felt needed to be registered and met the criteria for being registered, to be registered. Recently, 3 more I identified, and so all those 19, 19 were mailed out, and of those 19, how many registered? 8, I think, registered. And I do want to reiterate, well, not reiterate, but state that of the vacant and distressed buildings that have been identified, approximately, almost equally, half are in the historic district and half are not. And for me, as far as code enforcement, vacant and distressed and historic district go hand in hand. So let me get back to my numbers, sorry. So I've only been able to actually get 8 registered of how many of the 19, but we have the balance, which is what, I'm not doing the math here, but 11. Yeah, of the 11, thank you, of the 11, 7 of them, I honestly do not expect to ever get registered. It's not going to happen. People are not going to comply until we go down the code enforcement road. I have 4 others that I believe that will very soon be registered. And as I said before, I have 3 that just became available to be registered, and I know of 2 more that within the next 30 days will become eligible to be registered. You get a lot of non-compliance as far as registering. So the first step is to inspect. Whether it be we're going down the receivership road, the code enforcement road, the fine road, anything you want, the first step is inspection. Okay, when you register your building, you are consenting to let the city inspect your building. That's in the ordinance, as you probably well know. Doesn't mean they have to let us in though, and they won't. Some have complied, yes, but most aren't. And most of those that do not allow us consent to enter are those that did not register that should be, okay? So the first thing you have to do is get an inspection. To do so, if they don't consent, you have to get a warrant. So, and a warrant is a somewhat lengthy process, let's put it that way, because obviously we don't have to establish probable cause, whereas the sheriff's department does. Am I correct? You have to have probable cause in most cases to enter. We only need a reasonable belief that the building is substandard or whatever. So currently, I'm working on multiple warrants. I'm not going to name any particular places, but multiple warrants to inspect places that have not registered. I have tentatively scheduled inspections of 3 that are registered. Most of these buildings, as you well know, you can take one look at the outside of them and they're substandard. We don't even have to go inside and we know they're substandard. But once we do get inside, myself, Chief Padilla, Building Inspector McIntyre, possibly Health Officer Rick Florendo will be doing these inspections, and we create a complete list of all violations of, and basically building code, health and safety code, fire code, etc. That's the first step. We haven't gotten past the first step on all the ones that refused us entry yet until I get those warrants, which I would expect will be this month. We won't get in and inspect them this month because I have some scheduled time off as well, but that's where we're going with that. Once they're inspected, we go down the road as, for instance, in the month of January, we, myself and Building Inspector McIntyre posted 2 buildings as substandard, uninhabitable. And one of them is a duplex that was being occupied, and the tenant contacted and the tenant has the ultimate right to give you consent if you're in a tenant landlord situation. The property owner cannot give you consent. Only the tenant can. So if the tenant refuses, I can't. The tenant contacted us. We went down to inspection, immediately posted it substandard, and that's what will happen with these buildings. They'll be issued a notice and order. So you execute the warrant, do the inspection, note all the deficiencies, and then you draw up and issue a notice and order. And they have so many days to implement action. And if they do not, then they will go to an administrative hearing officer who will make, the decision on whether the city is in the right or the wrong to proceed. I don't know what else information you would want about that. So we're working on the vacant and distressed. It's a very, very long process, and we're just in the first stages of that. As far as other code enforcement issues, we're dealing with animals, vehicles, other kinds of things. Business licenses. Wendy works on short-term rental registration and keeping those people in line. And just as a note for the month of January, like I said, we identified 2 buildings as substandard. One, we issued a notice and order, and the property owners have hired a contractor, and the contractor has already submitted a building application, and I'm not sure if it's been approved yet, but it's very close because it was a very thorough application and very complete and accurate, whereas a lot of times they come in not so much, and so they get kicked back after review. But this looks like it's going to move forward, and so that one's going to be under renovation. The other one will end up going, it's registered as vacant and distressed, but we're going to end up going to the receivership road if they don't get it sold, or something doesn't happen. But it's a rather large project, so I'm not putting it at the, there's other things that we can get done in the historic district that are take precedent right now. So as far as code enforcement overall, with the addition of Silver and Wright and administrative hearing officer in this software, I'm really moving my focus towards buildings and public nuisance. So whether it be vacant and distressed, historic district, again, well, I didn't get into that. I have started working on the historic district, 1 building at a time, to get them to bring their buildings in compliance with historic district regulations and standards. And of course, we've gotten 0 compliance there, which is not a surprise. So, so I'm working on both of those, vacant and distressed and historic building, but also a smaller portion of that is public nuisance, which public nuisance is pretty much all encompassing. Basically, any violation of Dunsmuir Municipal Code can be enforced against with public nuisance. So, junky yards, vehicles that aren't registered or inoperable, any sort of blight, things like that. So that's the majority of the code enforcement focus right now. And then, of course, there's animals and vehicles to some degree. So I will note that last month, because I know a lot of people, and Sergeant Ortiz touched on this a little bit about unregistered vehicles. It is a constant problem in this small town city of vehicles being operated with grossly expired registration, meaning at least 6 months or more. So in the month of January, we removed 3 vehicles from the street. All of them had been expired since at least 2020. One of them was 2019. They're operating in the city. And I think the statistical facts will bear me out that when they're being operated with expired registration like that, very few, if any, have insurance. So to me, that's a health and safety issue that puts every resident at risk if an incident should occur where they hurt somebody, and you and I, and the rest of us, pay for that. So that's why if they're more than 6 months in a day by code, by vehicle code, they can be immediately removed off the street with no warning whatsoever. That's what our vehicle code says, and that's what we do. And
that's state code, correct?
That's
not that's state.
That's California Vehicle Code, okay? And so I cannot make any active traffic stops, but obviously the deputies can. It has to be a static vehicle in order for me to remove it. So, like I said, we removed 3 last month, and I already have 2 others in the bullseye and they're gone, because people, you see them running around town every day. They're operating those vehicles, putting every single person at risk. And last, animals aren't so much a problem, other than we have some enforcement issues as far as getting people to license their dogs. And we don't really have a mechanism in place for, it's hard to enforce, to force somebody. I mean, there are ways that would get very complicated and are not worth, I mean, you have to balance. Do you really want to expend this much money and this much effort to get somebody to license their dog for $15 or $20 or whatever, you know? But it's important on the other side is when you have these dog bite incidents, like the one the gentleman mentioned earlier, that it's very hard to proceed with dog bite incidents because we do not have in the city of Dunsmuir a policy and procedure to deal with dangerous and or vicious dogs. So when you have multiple dog bite incidents, I can't just go seize the dog and go put it down. I mean, there's state law, you know, specifies how you have to go about that, but we don't have that in our code. Now the county has it in their code. So my suggestion would be in the future, maybe a future agenda item, or whenever we're addressing our municipal code, that needs to be something that we address by putting in a policy and procedure to deal with incidents like this. They're very rare in Dunsmuir, but this one, we have one currently working right now, and our only way to enforce on that is it's a public nuisance because they violated state law, which is you have to have your dog license. That's a state law, and it gives the authority for the city to require you to license your dog, and they need to be vaccinated. So with these dogs that we have no proof that they've been vaccinated, and we know they're not licensed, it's a public nuisance. So we can actually go after the property owner through a notice and order to take action with these dogs. And right now I'm just waiting on approval from the city manager to move in that direction. Because my concern with this particular situation is these dogs are located on Siskiyou Avenue, where many elementary school students walk by, and I'm fearful that we're going to have a nasty incident. So we're working on that as well, but not fast solutions. So.
Are there any council questions before we move into vote?
Could you go over how many cases Curtis is working on right now in total?
Well, actually, Curtis works in conjunction with Jake, his associate. I mostly work with Jake. You want to know how many cases we're working right now with them?
Yeah, just how many abatement warrants we're going after generally, and then any other.
Actually, I have a phone call meeting with them tomorrow because I have decided to step up the warrant. I'm going to request quite a few warrants. I would say probably 8 or 9 warrants is where I'm at, and that's where we're at with that. But we are working on other cases as well.
And then the other question was for the historic district compliance. Are you looking at doing the admin sites per day that they're non-compliant after that noticing period, or what are you thinking about in terms of the process for that?
To get compliance. Okay, so where I'm at right now, I had 2 buildings or two property owners. One property owner owns multiple parcels. And the singular property owner basically this is one of the things I'm going to discuss with Sylvan Wright tomorrow. They're basically have thrown up their hands and said they don't have the money to do what we want them to do. And so I have to think about, I mean, burying them with fines is not going to get us any compliance. So I have to think of another way to leverage, because that's all we're trying to do is get compliance. That's all what it's about, compliance. And the more voluntary compliance, the more you can focus on those that don't voluntarily comply. The other property owner hasn't done anything. I am going to,
You don't have to go into super specific.
no, I'm moving forward with warrants on that. I've already cited that property owner. And he has been sent a notice of pendency, so he knows the city is taking legal action against him to get compliance, and I fully expect that it's going to be a tooth and nail all the way. But I will mention one thing that I should have mentioned. Those that have failed to register their vacant and distressed buildings, I think with only one exception, and that's just because I've been really busy, I've been citing them on a regular basis, and one person now is well over $5,000 in citations, and obviously I'm seeking warrants for this.
For the finance director, have we moved over to a SWIFT process instead of the lien process yet?
One thing we will be doing, I don't think I'm going to line, so just tell me if I'm not wrong. We will be doing seeking cost recovery through special assessment. That is already in the process. Several property owners from previous cases have been invoiced, and then of course all those will come to the city council next. Well, it has to be before August 1st. It has to be approved in a resolution before the city council, before we can move. But we are working for cost recovery on several cases that way, and all cases will go that way.
Thank you.
And just for clarification, so a notice of pendency means that we cloud the title, right? So that means that stuff gets, then if they want to sell it, all of that, it makes it more difficult without compliance, right? It gives us a finger in there and say, yeah, you can sell it, and also here's all the code compliance issues we have that need to be corrected.
Correct. It's not a lien against the property, but just.
It's like a disclaimer on a sale.
Right, briefly, for instance, I have two properties, one owner, they consented to let us inspect. I just haven't had a chance to schedule it yet, and I have to work it with James as well and Chief Padilla. And but they had a potential buyer for the property, and he was well aware that we had filed a notice of tenancy, and with that came a compliance agreement that he was going, and we were generous. We were very generous. These decisions weren't made without speaking with City Manager Reed, talking it over with Building Inspector McIntyre. What is a reasonable amount of time? Reasonable, because we have to consider how things move, the speed of things. And so we presented the compliance agreement to the potential buyer, and the man like his financial because he basically just wanted to do the 1 2x4 at a time type deal, which we already have several people like that. So, and I will address one other item. Sorry, we have a notice of order right now for a building that was not brought into compliance, and as soon as we set our first administrative hearing, which will probably be towards the end of February. We'll be moving forward on that, and that property will be demolished.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, are the people getting cited for doing record buildings, is there any payment of those citations?
Have we received any payment for those
Yeah.
citations? No.
And then, do we have any option for the ones that don't comply with registering? That just means that we jump straight to the warrant for inspection?
Correct. Yeah. So, and one thing maybe this is the wrong time, but one little item that I found in the vacant and distressed ordinance that it would be up to you to decide whether whether it needed to be addressed, but there really is no mechanism in the vacant and distressed building ordinance for, I make the decision with input from city manager and other city staff on what buildings qualify to be vacant and distressed, okay? And there is no real appeal process for that. So if I identify building X as needing to be vacant, registered under vacant and distressed, and the property owner disagrees with that, which we have one individual that has stated that, the only appeal process is to, if he fails to register, is to cite him, and then he could appeal it in front of the administrating hearing officer. And that, to me, it seems like there should be, maybe I have it wrong, but maybe there should be some form of appeal before before having to cite him to get, or them to get them to register. In this case, the person did register in protest, and he wants to appeal it, and I'm just going to move that in front of the administrative hearing officer. I mean, that's his right to be heard. So.
Yeah. Any other questions? Nope. All right, with that, we'll move on to public comment for this item. Same rules as general public comment and the public comment from the old business. Everyone will have 3 minutes. I will give a 30-second warning, and if you could please state your name and address for the record. We'll start with people in the room and then move on to people on Zoom. So if you'd like to make a public comment on this item, please head up to the podium.
Good evening. I'll reintroduce myself. I'm Fred Taylor. I've lived here for quite so many years. I guess the city manager and I kind of miscommunicated, because when I spoke with him, I was under the impression that I would be on the agenda for a public hearing, and instead it's come to this. I'll say in the beginning here, I don't have anything against code enforcement. Absolutely not. I came here because we got caught in a situation down at our Eagles Lodge where we had a couple of vehicles that the code enforcement officer determined was a nuisance. And how he determines that's his priority, I guess. But in any event, in our time period, first it was a 10-day situation and an advisory situation, and then it was a notice to abate within 30 days. And the second notice to abate within 30 days was complied with, and we removed the offending vehicles from our property. And then subsequently, quite some time, a couple of weeks after, we received legal papers from Silver and Wright or whatever, and I have no idea why they became involved, because we'd already complied. But nonetheless, there was suggestion that we would be subject to a citation and a large fine. And my sole purpose for getting a hearing before you, gentlemen and lady, was to see if you wouldn't alleviate us from having to have that burden. Our nonprofit organization, big part of this community, and we really can't afford to pay your hired law firm for, whatever it was, probably a very inconsequential code violation, if indeed it was a code violation at all. And so that was my purpose of being here, was to ask you guys to consider alleviating any financial responsibilities that might fall on us because of what occurred with the citations and whatever issued after we complied. So, and then to that point, we were aware of all the other complaints throughout the community, and of course, being where we are, we're a sounding board, and I just thought that as long as we have, my 3 minutes is up?
It's up, I'm sorry.
All right. Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you anyway.
Dwight Bailey, 5906 Castle Avenue. I understand that in this code enforcement situation that there are forums for it, there are not forums for it. We discussed how many buildings there were. We kind of, in general, guess what buildings they are. But in the consent calendar, it seems like last month, Silver and Wright received $7,881 based at $480 an hour. I believe that things that are on the consent calendar, the public's got a right to ask what for. Is that something, I would like to see that. I don't want to see an ongoing bill that we're paying on it, but yet the public has no idea what we're doing. It seems like to me it's covert. And covert, overt means you say one thing in public forum, you do something different in another forum. I see that that's happening. I don't like it. I like things above board, if it can be. And I think just listing the money we pay on this individual and not knowing what he did for that money or what buildings we're talking about, I think the public has a right to anything in the consent calendar to ask questions of. I'm not asking where this money went to last month. I'm just generalizing that I think there needs to be a better procedure of informing the public as to where we're spending the funds.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I appreciate the hours late. You've heard a lot and talked a lot tonight. There's perspective and there's reality. And my perspective is...
One second. We could have quiet in the audience, please.
My perspective obviously centers on the historic district and its decline ever since I moved up here. And I'm one of those that, because of my background representing the state of California as an attorney, genuinely believes that nobody is above the law. So my perception is, if you don't care about your empty and abandoned building, the smart strategy is to not register. The smart strategy is to go to the hardware store and buy some signs that say private property and no trespassing, I assume on advice of council. And like other cities, the city of Weed, come and get me because I am not going to cooperate. And I was on the council when we passed with great fanfare the empty and abandoned building ordinance. City attorney says, now City of Dunsmuir, you've got every tool you need. And yet the years have gone by, no inspections, no registration. The windows are still open to the weather. I don't know, once you inspect it, if anyone's going to be able to save the weed hotel. Now the brown paper has come down on the annex building, And I encourage you all to go look in the window of the annex building next to it's full of junk. It's a nuisance in anyone's definition. And as Mark pointed out, you don't need an inside inspection. You give the building owner 60 days to say, fix it. But we don't want to do that. With all due respect, Mr. City Manager, this is not the hardest thing the city has ever done. This is code enforcement. This is a routine municipal function, and it just seems like you're being overly timid. I'm working with a grassroots group to get the California Theater in good hands and restored. We're working with foundations. We're doing everything we can to pave the way, but as long as you're going to sit there and say, oh my God, we're afraid of something, it's not going to happen to the detriment of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison Lashevsky, River Avenue. And in San Francisco, they got these little cars that go around and ticket people all the time. SFMTA. And on the side, it says, good people, tough jobs. So I really like that slogan. You're a good person with a tough job. Going after all these things is hard. It takes a lot of staff time and just time. Mark Zuckerberg said that this is the year of efficiency, he says. And I'm thinking, well, how can we be efficient here? Dogs for $15. But it's come to my attention, I think at the last meeting we talked about how much the city is getting in the rental tax for the Airbnbs and stuff like that. And I guess some of these online booking websites, they remit the tax money to the cities themselves, and others don't. It's self-reported. And I'm thinking, geez, I think there's a lot of rentals out there that are self-reporting incorrectly. And I think that we can get exponential amount more if we direct our code enforcement towards that, actually. It's my understanding that the city can request records from these sites. So, you can see how many nights were booked and then add that up to how much money was given to the town for those taxes. So that would be a smart thing to do. We want to use our time and our labor efficiently so that we can see the fruits of that labor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Debbie. I've known all of it. 4120 Edith. I've been here 36 years. Code enforcement is great. But do it proper. The abatement, I have just a few things I have to point out for my first talk. Before the abatement, let me go about dogs. I have dogs, and he has no idea about my dog. I just spent a lot of money at the vet. They're all vaccinated. I take very good care of them. In fact, one of them, thank God, I don't have to put the little girl down. The attacked dog from next door attacked my dog. The day it happened, I called. I was off work 5 minutes ago. Called me at 7 in the morning. That was in May of 2023. To date, he has never called me back. I even talked to the city manager about him. Why doesn't he come? What's going on? City manager said, I'll talk to him. He was out on a school thing for about a week. Today, I said that to him. He goes, I was out of town. Well, you already knew that I needed a report on this dog attack. He never came. Never, to this day, never. Even today, he said, I wasn't home. I wasn't here. So what does that mean? I went to small claims court, you know what the judge said? I didn't have a human dog catcher report. That thanks a lot. That's enforcement code. The other guy had no leash on dog. My dogs have leashes. My dog had to go to the vet, attack a puppy from an 80-pound dog. He does nothing. He looks at me, and then he has a nerve to talked to people today about my abatement, and then it says, I'm a lousy resident, I always break the laws, I don't pay attention to nothing, I don't do anything, and if I don't watch out, she's gonna come take my dogs. That's what you say to somebody when they're taking their car away? I think Mr. Mark needs a little readjustment period. Back to the abatement, my abatement warrant says it should be implemented and be done in 14 days and report it back. When I asked him for another day for the guy who came with the key in hand, so here's the key, I certainly had to get that vehicle, and he would not allow it. I left him 3 messages last night that said I don't have to answer her. He knew I'd called. So I think all procedures have to be followed, and he needs to show some consideration. Because I'm telling you, I didn't get it. And then especially when I went down to Lakehead, and the fellow Don says,
30 seconds.
Nobody, thank you. Nobody wants to tow cars. Like Mr. Hester said, why are we giving money to different counties? There's 4 different places in this county that used to tow cars. What happened? I think something needs to be done and reorganized about Mr. Mark's perception, his personal rapport. We're supposed to have a cohesive relationship with you guys. And he doesn't do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? If you are on Zoom and would like to make a comment, feel free to raise your hand. Seeing none, I will close public comment on this item. All right, moving on to the discussion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Before we do, I would just like to say.
To Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Is there a public hearing?
We're not done yet. Stick around.
I'll bring that back forward if that's the council's direction to discuss that. That was something that I hadn't got to in my comments. He was here, I thought he was best to communicate what that was, so.
I know you met on Monday, and I know the agenda has to be out on Monday, so I assume it was just a time crunch for this meeting. Okay.
Yeah, the question I have on it, if I could, Mr. Mayor, is isn't that part of what we're doing with this, the new person that's coming on board that will facilitate having places where appeals can take place? Is that right?
The hearing officer.
Hearing officer, right?
Yeah. So there's a process to that, and I can provide that process. I don't.
Well, no, I'm just saying, I just want to let them know there is a process.
Yeah.
How come he got cited after he complied?
There wasn't a citation.
So yeah, this isn't the hearing now. We'll find that out and we'll.
That's curious.
Yeah. And then we'll go.
He'll follow up with you.
We'll follow up.
Yeah.
And then on a different note here, just before we do adjourn, because I think we all want to get out of here after 9 o'clock. I would like to see dog policy enacted to deal with.
Yeah, it's something that just came up in the last 2 days, so.
Yeah. So I would love to see some more. Okay.
I would add one comment. Thank you for the work. It's a heavy lift to do. They go enforcement. I really have high hopes in this calendar year to really move the needle forward. And the council are really watching very closely this item. I know there's thousands of things you have to do in a given month, keep the city afloat, keep things moving, but we'll have to put as much priority and weight on that as possible. It's been too long. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to second the motion to adjourn. And I'm out of here. Good night.